So today's video is a rather lengthy review of the cards coming to Hearthstone with the United in Stormwind expansion. Now, part of the reason why it's quite so long is because we go into a little bit of the synergies within each class between the cards. But yeah, if you're looking for a specific class and you want to skip to it, there are time codes in the description below you can check out if you'd like to jump to them. But yeah, let's get into it. Huh, this should be interesting. Okay, let's start off with Warrior, and starting off with the quest line. So the quest line is Raid the Docks, and quest line always starts in hand, which is great. For Warrior, all you have to do is play 3 pirates for the first stage, and that will draw you a weapon from your deck. So we're assuming, because you're running pirates and pirate synergies with weapons and such, that you're going to be running a weapon as well that'll get yanked from your deck. And then the second stage is to play 2 more pirates, and at the end of that, you'll actually deal 2 damage to a random enemy twice. Now, I don't know if that's going to be the same enemy twice, or if that's going to be 2 damage to a random enemy, and then 2 damage to another random enemy. Probably the second, but we'll see. And then finally, the third stage is to play 2 more pirates, and you'll get Captain Rokara into your hand. And her battle cry is to summon the Juggernaut. And the Juggernaut is a basically kind of a dormant minion. It's kind of like the portal that you summon off of Niru Fireblade. And so at the start of every single turn, so that your opponent can't kill it, but at the start of every single turn after you've summoned it, it's gonna summon a pirate, equip a warrior weapon, and fire 2 cannons that deal 2 damage. Every single turn. And so you get to wear your opponent down. Now, this is a little bit different from your normal, traditional pirate warrior archetype, because you're doing a lot more like wearing your opponent down over time instead of rushing them with, you know, base damage like you would normally with a pirate deck. So it is quite different, but I'm curious to see how it'll line up. Now, in order to support this, Warrior got quite a few new pirates and pirate synergy cards. And so we've got, of course, the quest itself, but then Harbor Scamp is a 2-mana 2/2 pirate, and with a battle cry to draw a pirate. So it helps you cycle through and complete the quest a little bit faster. If you've got Raid the Docks on 1, Harbor Scamp on 2, and then you'll draw almost all pirates, well, almost all pirates that you'd be running are going to be 3 mana or less. So you've got a nice 1, 2, 3 curve there if you happen to have Harbor Scamp in hand, and it'll draw you towards your conditions. So very, very nice. And then you've got Stormwind Freebooter, who's a 3-mana 3/3 pirate, and her battle cry is to give your hero +2 attack this turn, which could totally be run in a non-quest, non-pirate build, but it makes warriors so much more aggressive. So very nice, very powerful. And then you've got a kind of a different kind of pirate. So Cargo Guard is a 3-mana 2/4 with a every single turn effect to gain 3 armor at the end of your turn, which is very nice in a control-y style deck. And I think Raid the Docks is probably going to fall into more of a control-oriented deck. And so Cargo Guard is going to be a really nice way to buy you that time and time and energy and everything like that to keep you going. It's not quite aggressive as you would normally think for a pirate warrior, which actually in standard right now, pirate warrior isn't much of a thing. But Cargo Guard is strong. And actually, this might make the cut in Menagerie style decks or something like that, just because when you summon it back off of N'Zoth, if you're not using Stonewall Anchorman, which I think you're going to want Stonewall Anchorman in an N'Zoth deck, but maybe you've drawn too much through your deck, and so you choose to drop drop Stonewall Anchorman and put Cargo Guard in there for even more stall and survivability. Maybe. But he's an option. And then the final pirate synergy card for warrior that they're getting this time is Shiver Their Timbers, a 1-mana spell to deal 2 damage to a minion, and if you control a pirate, you'll deal 5 instead. Not your normal card for pirate warrior either, so again, more oriented towards a control deck. The thing is, I don't know if control decks really need Shiver Your Timbers, but maybe, because it's just damage, unlike the 1-mana spell to deal 2 damage and gain 2 armor. This one is literally just ramping up the damage on a minion. So I'm not sure if it'll see play, but maybe, especially in a Raid the Docks pirate warrior. So the rest of the warrior cards are a little bit of an amalgam, or an amalgam of different things shoved together. So you've got kind of a big warrior support card in Cowardly Grunt. 6 mana, 6/2, so only 2 health is kind of scary, but his death rattle is to summon a minion from your deck. So it's old school recruit, or it's commencement on a minion, but the minion doesn't get taunt or divine shield. So you're probably running this in a deck together with commencement, and you might even run it with a big card like Lothar. So Lothar is the new legendary 7 mana 7/7, and at the end of your turn, attack a random enemy minion. If it dies, gain +3/+3, which is great coming off of a commencement, because the divine shield will keep him at full health, and then he'll become a 10/10 taunt that your opponent has to deal with. Kind of scary, but kind of cool. However, if he gets pulled off of something like Cowardly Grunt, or you just have to play him out, not quite as exciting. And unlike the next minion we're going to talk about, he doesn't really benefit from you using Provoke on him. But Provoke is a tradable 0 mana spell to choose a friendly minion, and enemy minions are all forced to attack it. And which is great to have a high health. If you could have a poisonous minion out there, I don't know, Venomous Scorpion, if you could give it some extra health somehow. All your opponent's minions have to run into it and kill themselves off, probably. Or if you've got Rattlegore or something else, for example, this remote-controlled golem that you want to force your opponent to run into. And remote-controlled golem is a 4-mana 3/6 mech, and after this takes damage, shuffle 2 golem parts into your deck, and when drawn, they summon a 2/1 mech. Very different playstyle for warrior. We don't, at least in standard, have much going on with mech synergies and token synergies in warrior. So I'm really not sure where this is gonna fit, if it does fit in standard at all. In wild, you've got magnetic, you've got Dr. Boom or Mad Genius. So all your mechs have rush, and so these 2/1 mechs are not completely useless when they get summoned onto the board. So that's a nice synergy going on in wild, but I don't know what you're really going to be doing with this in standard. If you can get a couple extra 2/1 mechs and actually do something with them, or they help you win a brawl, yeah, no, I really don't see how remote-controlled golem is going to help us in standard. But it is a probably decent wild card if you're running Mech Warrior with Dr. Boom Mad Genius. That's it. And then the final card is Heavy Plate, a 3-mana tradable card or spell to gain 8 armor. And again, tradable. I don't know that I mentioned when I covered Provoke, but Provoke and Heavy Plate are both tradable. Tradable is the keyword for this set. All you have to do is, if you don't want to use it now, if it doesn't work out well, you can actually drag it over your deck, and for 1 mana, it will shuffle that back into your deck and draw you a new card. So pretty nice keyword for the set, and yeah, this is actually a pretty good tradable card because sometimes you really need that armor to stay alive, and you're willing to pay 3 mana for it. And then other times you're like, no, I don't want to gain armor now. I'd really like another card from my deck. So, decent card. Is it good enough to make the cut in any decks? So there wasn't really anything new with armor synergies introduced. So the Silas OTK does become slightly more reliable with this, but I don't think it's gonna make the cut most of the time. So will Control Warrior actually make a spot for this? I don't know. It is nice that you can kind of shuffle it or trade it back into your deck and maybe get one of the higher impact cards that you're wanting, or one of the better control tools for dealing with a super wide board where 8 armor just might not be enough. So maybe? We'll have to see, but I'm somewhat doubtful that it'll make the cut. So these warrior cards are a lot more situational, and it is nice to see that Big Warrior got a little extra support. Of course, Cowardly Grunt goes amazingly with the Bully, the 8 mana something Bully. But Lothar might also make the cut in that deck. Lothar never makes the cut above and beyond the Bully, but he might actually make a cut, or the cut together with him. So we'll have to see. But that's Warrior. But yes, if you guys have any questions, Provoke could help you trigger your Death Rattle. Right. Oh yeah, that's another reason why I put these all together, is you could use Provoke to trigger Cowardly Grunt's Death Rattle and yank another card from your deck. Okay, Troublemaker. Troublemaker is the name of the 8 mana Bully card. Okay. And, but yes, so that's actually a pretty good synergy going on there. We'll see. And also Provoke, oh yeah, Provoke is also really nice together with Kresh as a way to ensure that you're going to get the 8 armor off of Kresh. And they can't devolve him or silence him or anything like that before you get the 8 armor value from it. So that's a nice way to use Provoke as well. Next up is Warlock. And Warlock has 2 really cool directions that it's going, and then a third direction that I'm kind of iffy on. So the first direction is Handlock coming back. And to support that, Anetheron is a 6 mana 8/6 demon, legendary, and he'll cost 1 mana if your hand is full. So 10 cards or 12 cards if you've played Valdris. But so on turn 4, I think, if you've tapped twice, you can play out Anetheron. And also what's really cool is that Anetheron with Philosophy. If you have a Philosophy as one of your first 10 cards in hand, you can copy Anetheron and then drop 2 8/6s for 1 mana each, which is quite ridiculous. Pausing for a second. Yes, that's a good point. Lothar synergizing with Rokara is really nice. Yeah, definitely. That's cool. Good point there. Okay, back to it. So, another Handlock support card is Dark Alley Pact, and that'll allow you to summon, you know, an 8/8, 9/9, or sometimes just a 7/7 relatively early. It is just a fiend, so it just has whatever stats you gave it, but then again, it can come down on 4 pretty reliably, together with all of these other hand Warlock synergy cards. I think it makes the cut in the same deck and becomes really strong. And then one more really big Handlock synergy card, good heavens, is Entitled Customer. Entitled Customer is a 6 mana 3/2 with Battle Cry, deal damage equal to your hand size to all other minions. So it's essentially a Twisting Nether if you've got anywhere close to a full hand. which is really nice. And just the whole flavor of this card, entitled customer, and the gnome that's acting all haughty and garbage and does damage to all other minions, like just creating a toxic environment. Brilliant. It's freaking brilliant. Yes, entitled customer is a good board clear for any control warlock. And then one more that's essentially kind of like a handlock card is Ruined Mithril Rod. It's a 3-mana 0/2, and after you draw 4 cards, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1. Lose 1 durability. And so this one, very nice, great way to reduce the cost of all your cards in hand. Could potentially make Anetheron 0 mana to play. No, actually probably not. I don't know if that would override it. I think he would still cost 1. So I don't know if there's the synergy there. But still, if you can get a discount on 5, 6, 7 cards, you're doing great with this. And if you get a discount on a full hand, holy cow, that's insane. And of course, this takes your natural draw as well as your hero power, so the synergy in Warlock is amazing. I'm kind of tempted to run a weapon buff card, but I think Greenskin he rotated out with the core set. So I'm not sure what our options are to increase the durability of this, in standard at least. And then lastly, for the first group of 5, we've got Shady Bartender. So he's a 5-mana 4/4, tradable, and he has a battle cry to give your demons +2/+2. Now, if you're summoning massive demons like Anetheron and the Fiend off of Dark Alley Pact, +2/+2 isn't terribly exciting, but it does make them even bigger. And if you do pair the Fiend or Anetheron with the 1-mana neutral Stockades Guard, I believe it is, that gives a friendly minion taunt, it's kind of like the whole old school give your giants taunt and force your opponent to try and make their way through them. And Shady Bartender can buff up that win condition. However, I think he's going to actually find a lot more play together with the demons coming off of Demonic Assault. So Demonic Assault is a 4-mana spell, or fell spell, to deal 3 damage and summon 2 1/3 Voidwalkers with taunt, which is very nice. And if you can buff those up by +2/+2 with the Shady Shady Bartender, then you're in a great spot. And another demon that you can get that will keep coming back and keep giving value, albeit a small amount of value, is Tamsin's Dreadsteed, coming off of the Dreaded Mount, which is to give a minion +1/+1, and when it dies, summon an Endless Dreadsteed, which is Tamsin's Dreadsteed. And so it becomes a 4-mana card, which I don't think is relevant unless your opponent bounces it back into your hand. And the death rattle is at the end of the turn, summon Tamsin's Dreadsteed. So it keeps cycling. So you could fill a board with Dreadsteeds. I don't think there's anything broken, silly, stupid we can do with that in standard at the moment. I don't even know if there's anything crazy anymore you can do in wild with it. But especially since they changed it to be at the end of the turn instead of immediately. But still, kind of an interesting card, and if you can buff it up by +2/+2 with Shady Bartender, it becomes slightly better. I'm not sure that Dreaded Mounts will see much play. However, Bloodbound Imp as a 2-mana 2/5 probably will see play, especially with the next card we're going to cover. But this demon is, whenever it attacks, deal 2 damage to your hero. He's nice, sticky, powerful, strong, feels good, and I'm sure he's going to feel amazing with the Demon Seed. So the Demon Seed is the Warlock questline that I'm so looking forward to. And so to go ahead and talk about the Warlock questline, we've got the Demon Seed. So all of them start in your opening hand, 1 mana, and the first step is to take 6 damage on your turn, and the reward is that you deal 3 damage to the enemy hero that's lifesteal damage. So you'll heal back for 3, half of what you just took. And then you've got Establish the Link as the second stage, which is take 7 damage, and again you deal 3 lifesteal damage to the enemy hero. And then the third stage is to take 8 damage on your turns, with the reward that you get Blightborn Tamsin. So Blightborn Tamsin is a 5 mana 7/7 with Battlecry for the rest of the game. Damage you take on your turn damages your opponent instead. So your hero power becomes an automatic shot to their face and draw a card. And all the cards you used to help you complete this suddenly become super damage. And then also you've got a fatigue scaling win condition. So if you've managed to use Delete Warlock Shell or something like that to cycle through your deck and knock this out with things like Backfire, and of course the minion we just talked about a moment ago, which we're going to go back to now. There we go. Bloodbound Imp, you've got recurring damage with that, which is going to be insanely fun. And so your whole deck is designed to damage yourself, and you transform all of that damage to yourself into damage on the opponent, allowing you to play cards that normally the damage on yourself would be kind of a downside. You get to transform that into burn the opponent down. Now, of course, taking that much damage yourself on your turns, yeah, that's going to be a problem, especially against aggro decks. So you need some more healing tools. Of course, you have the shards, and you have a number of other Warlock cards that are going to help keep you alive, but there's also a new card called Touch of the Nathrazim. It's a 1 mana shadow spell to deal 2 damage to a minion, and if it dies, restore 4 health to your hero, which, it being 1 mana, means you can get a second 0 mana copy if you've got Tamsin herself. So nice way to recover quite a bit of health as you're burning yourself to death. So I think the Demon Seed is what Burnlock was missing, since there was no reason to go into fatigue if Niru was burnt. That's true, yes. And oh my gosh, Niru together with this is going to be like the perfect pair of just overwhelming pressure. Now, do you need Niru? Probably not at this point, but it's going to be fun to mix them together. So yes, Warlock, especially the quest line, is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to playing Handlock as well. And actually, you might throw this into Handlock as well? Maybe. A control style deck could still use this and play out like normal. It's just that they transform, like, you don't even necessarily need to run cards like Backfire and whatnot. You could just run a control Warlock, and your hero powers gradually knock this out, and then you use Fatigue as an alternate win condition, in case your opponent did something else. So it's kind of crazy what you can do. But yeah, I love the Demon Seed is brilliant. So it's going to be so much fun to work around or build around. Okay, so that's Warlock. And then Shaman. Good heavens. Okay. So Shaman's got a few directions to go as well, but we're going to start with the semi-amalgam of cards for Shaman. Starting off with Tiny Toys, which is a 6 mana spell to summon 4 random 5-cost minions, but make them all 2/2s. So this is ridiculously good with Bogspine Knuckles and or Revolve as ways to actually summon a big, huge board on turn 6 or turn 7 if you're using Revolve instead. So really nice there. And then also a fair number of 5/5s have decent effects or nice death rattles that are just fine even if they're 2/2s. So a couple different ways you can use tiny toys, but it's gonna be good. And then you've got Auction House Gavel, which is a 2-mana 2/2, and after your hero attacks, reduce the cost of a Battlecry minion in your hand by 1. So this is a nice way to, if you're running mostly Battlecry synergy cards, discount your hand, go ahead and be able to play out a few more Battlecries together in a single turn. Now, why would you want to play a bunch of Battlecry cards in a single turn? Because Bolner, Hammerbeak is a 2-mana 1/4 legendary that after you play a Battlecry minion, repeat the first Battlecry played this turn. By the way, Pinflinger is a Battlecry minion, and if you've got some cheap ways to bounce him, you can trigger probably a fair number of Battlecries in a single turn. Bit of a challenge though, you can get Greybout and Rustwicks from tiny toys. I like it. Yes, that's a good point. Okay, so the challenge is he's 2 mana to play him, and then you play whatever Battlecry you want, and then maybe you Pinflinger and Lightning Bloom to keep your mana going and bounce your Pinflinger. I don't know though. What huge Battlecry are you getting? What high value Battlecry are you getting that you want to keep repeating? I haven't done enough looking at it for theory crafting, but I'm not sure that there's anything crazy broken we can do with it in standard. But that is something we're going to look into. Now, one Battlecry that is really strong, but considering without help from Auction House Gavel, he's a 4-mana 4/5 elemental. Might be a little expensive to pair with Bolner, but so Granite Forgeborn is a 4-mana 4/5 elemental with a Battlecry to reduce the cost of elementals in your hand and deck by 1, which means if you're playing lots and lots of elementals, this is going to make your swarm of elementals even more easy to dump. Now, does Shaman have enough card draw to support it? Thank heavens, Cariel Rome's dad, whatever his name, something Rome, draws 2 cards at basically the end of your turn, is going to be able to help refill your hand because, Shaman was suffering a little bit. Now, of course, you can still use the Primal Dungeoneers together with this. Shudderwalk for Wild, I know that's going to be insane. Yeah. But Granite Forgeborn is going to be a good way in a heavy elemental deck to just drop the elementals over and over and over and over. And the elementals in Wild do have a lot more resource generation that you can get off of them. Elementals into elementals and stuff. So that you can continue benefiting from Granite's effect. But decently strong minion with a really nice effect to put a lot more pressure if you have enough cards to keep the elementals flowing. Now, one elemental that's going to be great to discount is Canal Slogger. It's a 4-mana 6/4 elemental with Rush and Lifesteal, which overloads for 1. Varian could draw you 6 cards instead of 3. So switching focus to that for a second. Yes, but he draws you a Rush, which the card we're looking at right now is a Rush, a Taunt, and a Divine Shield. You might have a Taunt as well. You're probably not going to have a Divine Shield in Shaman. And also, he is pretty expensive for a Shaman deck, but maybe a Control Shaman could run it. And if we can see any good Divine Shield minions, that could work out well. Divine Shield, not necessarily taunt. I don't know. I don't know that Varian makes the cut in a Shaman deck, but that's an idea we could look into. Okay, so back to Canal Slogger. So it's got Rush and Lifesteal, and then Overloads for 1. 4 mana, heal for 6 immediately, and maybe stick to the board through whatever you ran into, so that your opponent has to deal with it, meaning you either heal 6 more, or your opponent had to use some resource on it. Really high impact for a 4 mana card. And actually even stronger if it's only 3 mana or less from Granite Forgeborn. Not that that's necessarily, like, it's not coming down any sooner unless you manage to get Granite Forgeborn out earlier. But no. And oftentimes you don't need 6 health right on turn 4. Against an aggro deck. Actually, that's a pretty powerful swing against an aggro deck. So, loving Canal Slogger, if I could pronounce that correctly. But there's a lot more going on with Overload in Shaman for this set. So next we're going to look at the Shaman quest, or quest line, which starts with Command of the Elements. And all you have to do, what you have to do for this one is play 3 cards with Overload. And the reward is that you'll unlock your overloaded mana crystals. Now, unfortunately, Perpetual Flame won't actually count as 3 different cards because you have to play, even though you potentially could cast Perpetual Flame 3 times in a single turn. If your opponent has 3 minions out there, it'll still only count as playing 1 Overload card, which is kind of a bummer. It would have been a really powerful way to knock this out quickly. But I guess with Diligent Note Taker's help, Perpetual Flame will still help you have a cheap and easy way to knock this out. But Lightning Bloom is also going to be your friend for knocking this out. So the second stage is to play 3 more cards with Overload. And of course you unlocked all your overloaded mana crystals with the previous stage. And the reward for this one is to get this Living Earth 3 mana 3/3 elemental with Taunt. So a nice little bit of stall as you're still overloaded, because this one did not unlock your overloaded mana crystals unless you play one of the cards we're going to look at here in a second. And then the final stage is actually just to play 2 more cards with Overload. So a total of 8 Overload cards. And the reward is Stormcaller Brukan, who's a 5 mana 7/7. Battle Cry. For the rest of your game, or rest of the game, your spells cast twice. And you're probably running Serpent Shrine Portal and Lightning Bolt in here as ways to potentially complete the quest, but they're also amazing after you complete the quest because you can get huge value from them. And then there's, of course, the Lightning Bloom to help you get through this. You would overload for a bunch more, but you can do some broken, crazy, silly, stupid things with it after you've completed it. So I'm not sure quite how we build this, but there are enough Overload cards that are not just a spell themselves that you could potentially conserve your spells until after you get Stormcaller Brukan down, and then you can just burn your opponent like mad. Think double Dunk Tank, double Serpent Shrine Portal, double Lightning Bolts, like just they die. You melt them. Now, other Overload synergies that's coming with this set, besides just the quest line, is Investment Opportunity, which is a great way to get to your cards that are Overload. Make sure that you're knocking out the quest a little bit faster, and or find your final burn there at the end. And then you've got Overdraft. So Overdraft is a pretty cool card in that it's tradable. So if you don't have Overload, or or overloaded mana crystals, or you're not planning to do it in the next turn or two, you can actually shuffle it back into your deck and get another card, maybe an actual overload card that you're looking for. And if you do have overloaded mana crystals, this is great because not only will it unlock mana crystals that you have locked right now from your previous turn, but if you've cast something like, I don't know, a Perpetual Flame to completely clear the enemy board and you've overloaded for 7, then you can overdraft and unlock all of those and be able to play next turn just like normal. I'm looking forward to doing Moarg Artificer Perpetual Flames to clear 6 health and less minions from the opponent's board, and then play Overdraft. That was a 4 mana combo to do a board clear and have 0 overloaded mana crystals. Probably pretty good. And then you've got a payoff card to benefit from all of these overload cards that you're playing. If you have enough mana to play the Spirit Alpha and an overload card or two together with it at the same time, it's pretty good. So Spirit Alpha is a 4 mana 2/5 that after you play a card with overload, summon a 2/3 Spirit Wolf with Taunt. So, oh heavens, I need to look at that real quick. The name of the card is Feral Spirit. So it's half of a Feral Spirit every single time you cast an overload card. And the fact that the Spirit Wolves with Taunt have Taunt each time they're summoned, then that improves the chances that Spirit Alpha itself can sometimes survive longer and allow you to keep getting value from those taunts. So kind of a roadblock to removal that your opponent has to deal with, or else you're going to basically fill the entire board with taunted Spirit Wolves. And then they just play a 3 damage AoE and everything dies, but, you know, you've got a nice little bit of a payoff there. And then one more really nice payoff card for the Overload package is Charged Call. So a 3 mana spell to discover a 1-cost minion and summon it. Not exciting, but upgraded for each Overload card you played this game, which is very nice because if you've completed the quest or quest line, then you've overloaded at least 8 times, meaning you're getting an 9 mana, or if you, an 8 or 9 mana if you're doing it along the way, minion that you discover and summon onto the board. Rattlegore, anyone? I hope it's accessible from the entire pool, but we'll see. If you can get a Rattlegore off of this, it's going to feel pretty good for you, not to your opponent. So Charged Call is a great card as a reward in an Overload synergy deck. All of this, does it come together? Does it work? You could discover a Reliquary of Souls. Oh, Reliquary Shaman is coming back. Not so reliable though. It's a 1-cost minion. There are a ton of 1-cost minions. Unfortunately, Fist of Rodin is a far more reliable, or was a far more reliable way to generate Reliquary of Souls. But yes, sometimes you could hyper high roll and get a Reliquary of Souls, a 3 mana Reliquary of Souls. So probably not the way you want to try and use it, but it's an option. In a pinch, you can hope to get just what you need from it. But so Charged Call, you're probably going to want to summon at least a 4-cost minion off of it, but anything above and beyond that's gravy. So the Overload synergy is looking pretty interesting. It's going to be a fun way to play. I don't know if it's going to be nearly as strong as the current aggro and elemental shaman that you have, but kind of a fun way to go at it. We'll see. And that's Shaman. Let's move on to Rogue. starting off with Rogue's questline. So Rogue got, in my opinion, the coolest questline and rewards. So, Rogue's questline is Find the Imposter, and you have to play 2 SI7 cards. And we're going to talk about the SI7 cards in just a second. And the reward is to add a spy gizmo to your hand. And fortunately, we've got all the spy gizmos right here. So the first one is Fizz Flash Distractor. And that is basically return an enemy minion to its owner's hand. They can't play it next turn. So it's old school sap for less mana, and they can't actually replay it out right away. And then you've got Hidden Gyroblade, which is a 1 mana 3/2. All of these are 1 mana, which is really nice and cheap. So it's a 3/2 weapon and a death rattle to throw this at an enemy minion, which is great. Kind of devastating. Nice way to keep fighting while, or help clear the board while you're continuing to summon SI7 agents and such. And then you've got Noggin Fog Generator to give a minion +2 attack and stealth. So you're probably giving a minion stealth if they've already attacked, or you're doing or actually you play this on one of your SI7 minions and ensure that they stick on the board so that they can strike in for 2 extra damage the following turn. But sometimes you might just play this on a minion just for the +2 attack to get a little extra damage right this turn. But actually playing Noggin Fog Generator on an SI minion that you just played is a pretty good way to use this, I think. And then you've got Spy-O-Matic, 1 mana 3/2 mech. Battlecry, look at 3 cards in your opponent's deck and pick 1 to put on top. So you can potentially disrupt their card draw. Or if you have... No, actually, I don't think the... Hold on. I want to look at the lady who draws a card from your minion or from your opponent's deck. South Sea Scoundrel. Discover a card in your opponent's deck. They draw theirs as well. No, putting it at the top doesn't actually help or improve the chances of that at all. So no, never mind. Forget that. I think Spymaster Scab's pose and attack is a reference to Power Rangers. You talking about the final one? The Spymaster Scab's his holding the little devices and stuff. I don't know if it's Power Rangers, but yes, you're right. South Sea Scoundrel. Maybe. Or wait, no, he's doing this with it, like a lockpick to get out. Easy for him. But anyways, so you can basically disrupt your opponent's draw slightly, but also you're getting a nice overstated mech on the board, and you know what your opponent's going to be drawing next turn. So that's also a nice little bit of information about them. And then the final one is Undercover Mole, which has stealth, and after this attacks, add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. If your opponent's a rogue, that's cool. You get a rogue card. But anything else, you get a card from another class. We don't have any thief rogue like other class synergies, sadly, going on right now in standard. So not as exciting as it could be, but yeah, it's good. Okay, so those are all the spy gizmos that you get from Spymaster Scabs. You get one of those randomly, who knows which one, when you complete each of the first 2 stages. So stage 1, play 2 SI7 cards. Stage 2, play 2 more SI7 cards, get another spy gizmo. Stage 3, play 2 SI7 cards, so 6 total to finish the entire quest line, and you get Spymaster Scabs. And he's a 5 mana 7/7, much like most of the other final reward minions. And his battle cry is to add 1 of each of your spy gizmos to hand, which means 5 mana. You can play all 5 gizmos. And Rogue is the class with Tenwu and Shadow Steps in it, so you can get even more spy gizmo value. So looking forward to it. We're gonna go crazy with this. But okay, so in case you're wondering what in the world the SI7 cards are, we've got them all right here. So with this set, we're getting 5 new SI7 cards. Starting off with SI7 Extortion, is a tradable, deal 3 damage to an undamaged character. So this is like the Galakron card, Seal something, that you have to target an undamaged character, but it does 3 damage, and it's only 1 mana instead, which is very nice. And if it doesn't line up, everything's damaged, and you don't think you'll have a use for it anytime soon, you can trade it back into your deck and get another card in hand, which is very nice. And one of those cards might be SI7 Operative, which is a 3 mana 2/4 with Rush. And after this attacks, a minion, of course, gains Stealth, which means you could keep stealthing it if it could actually handle the damage that it's taking, or if you managed to give it Divine Shield or something. I don't know how you would keep it alive, but you can basically keep stealthing it as long as it survives the attacks. And so that's a really decent 3-drop for SI7. And then of course you've got the natural or old school SI7 Agent, 3 mana 3/3 combo, deal 2 damage, classic, strong. And then actually the new neutral card, so this is not a rogue card, but we're going ahead and talking about it, is SI7 Skulker. And he's a 2 mana 2/2 with stealth, and Battlecry, the next card you draw, costs 1 less. So slight card discount, and then also you've got the stealth, but really it's just a nice cheap way to get progress towards this. And yeah, a little bit of cheaper stuff going on. You could get it to go face right at the start for SI7 Extortion. Yeah, you're talking about... Wait, you can use SI7 Extortion on the opponent's face right away, if that's what you're talking about. But SI7 Extortion doesn't help SI7 Operative in any way. I don't know quite what you're talking about. But yeah, and then also you can use SI7 Extortion to combo out SI7 Agent for quite cheap and get 2 SI7 cards played in a single turn. But yeah, and then we've got a couple SI7 cards that are synergistic with the rest of the SI7 package. And the first one of those is SI7 Informant, and she's a 4 mana 3/3 with a Battlecry to gain +1/+1 for each SI7 card you've played this game. So starting as a 4 mana 3/3, meh, 4/4, 5/5, okay, 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, oh yeah, like it. Let's go. And if you're playing this quest line, you're probably playing her as a payoff as well. As to whether or not this entire package is strong enough to be a meta deck, we'll see. But are we going to be playing the heck out of it? And then the final card is SI7 Assassin, who's a 7 mana 4/4, but he's not 7 mana a lot of the times because he costs 1 less for each SI7 card you've played this game. And he's a combo card that if you combo him out, he'll destroy an enemy minion. So very, very strong. She looks like she can be an Edwin. SI7 Informant is a mini Edwin. Yeah, kind of. A little bit slower, but a little bit more reliable, perhaps, than Edwin. Unless you've got a big, huge pop-off turn for Edwin. Then she can't get that big, but or as big as Edwin can. But yeah, she's going to be nice. And then the SI7 Assassin is basically Vile Spine Creeper, I think it was what it was called, of old. If you've played maybe 3-4 SI7 cards before SI-7-8 Assassin. He's going to be really cheap, easy to combo out, destroy an enemy minion, and summon a 4/4, which is nice. So, really like that. This is going to be fun. I don't know how strong that's going to be. I don't know that it's going to be a meta deck, but we are going to play the heck out of this. Okay. I'm dying here. I need some water. Much better. All right. So that's the first half of Rogue. And then next, we have what may be one of the most interesting cards ever printed. Maestra of the Masquerade is a 2-mana 3/2. At the start of the game, no, you start the game as a different class until you play a rogue card. So your opponent is going to think they are playing against, I don't know, a Warlock. And they're going to mulligan against whatever the most popular Warlock deck is. Let's assume Handlock suddenly becomes the most popular deck, or Self-Immolation Lock, whatever you want to call Demon Seed Lock, becomes the most popular. And so they mulligan to try and take advantage of that. And then, surprise! We're a rogue! And we're gonna, I don't know, cut your face off. Or we're going to play the quest line. Now, we don't have to give ourselves away right away if we have other cards, neutral cards in our deck that we don't want to give away what we are. But yes, this is a very interesting card. Again, I wish Burgle Rogue, or rather we had Thief Rogue Synergies going on, other class card Synergies, because this is an amazing card for that. It would be so cool. In Wild, I'm sure you could do some crazy stuff with it. Discover cards from other classes, and then, well, but if you've played the quest, it won't work for that, but it will work for the weapon, Spectral Cutlass. Because yes, the moment you play the Bizarre Burglary quest, you become a rogue, and then you no longer discover cards from your starting class. But the Spectral Cutlass will have some great synergy with this in Wild. Anyways, okay, enough sidetracked. Next up, we've also got Garrote, which is a 2-mana spell, or Garrote, I think is the correct pronunciation. I looked it up. I'm just not used to it. I want to say Garrote, but I think it's Garrote. Or Garrote. And so 2 mana, deal 2 damage to an enemy hero, Shuffle 3 bleeds into your deck that deal 2 more when drawn. So 1 mana cast when drawn, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. The reason 1 mana is significant is because if you get it off of Secret Passage, you can still cast it for just 1 mana. So a good way to finish off the opponent at the end if you need to, you haven't drawn it yet. So you could Secret Passage into that last little bit of damage you need. And so that's a pretty nice way to support the Shuffle Rogue package that's going on. And a card that you may want to include in Shuffle Rogue, together with, say, Ticketmasters, is Sketchy Information. So Sketchy Information is a 3-mana spell to draw a Death Rattle card that costs 4 or less and trigger its Death Rattle, meaning you yank it from your deck and say it's Ticketmaster. That will shuffle 3 plushies, Plushie Bears, Plushie Doom Bears, whatever you call them, into your deck right away, and then when you play it out, you get its Death Rattle again. Now, what's really neat about this, and makes this next weapon makes this next weapon viable, is Sketchy Information's effect, because you trigger its Death Rattle. And so if you've played Sketchy Information on 3 into Counterfeit Blade, which is a 4-mana 4/2 with a battle cry to gain a random friendly Death Rattle that triggered this game, you will immediately gain the Death Rattle of whatever Death Rattle minion you pulled off of sketchy information. So you don't have to have played a Death Rattle minion and it have died off already. Because if you try to do Counterfeit Blade naturally, it's not going to come down on anything decent on turn 4. You might be able to get a Loot Hoarder or something like that, Blood Mage Thalnos effect out of it, but you're probably winning more value out of it. So sketchy information makes Counterfeit Blade semi-viable, and allows us to get tons of Fleshy Bears or other crazy things shuffled into our deck. Now, another thing that pairs decently well with both Counterfeit Blade and sketchy information is the final rogue card, Loan Shark. Loan Shark is a 3-mana 3/4 with a battle cry to give your opponent a coin, and Death Rattle that you get 2. Meaning that you can get, say, you sketchy information into Counterfeit Blade with Loan Shark as the minion you're pulling from your deck. You're going to get 4 coins in your hand. Now, 2 immediately, and then 2 you have to wait till the Counterfeit Blade dies or breaks, which you could use your hero power to break it if you are desperate, but then you're using 2 mana and getting 2 coins, so I don't know that that's worth it, unless you're looking for a huge Edwin in Wild, or a massive Prize Plunderer, or just want to bounce Penflinger a billion times. But you can do some crazy stuff with this. Loan Shark, sketchy information, and Counterfeit Blade have this kind of interesting synergy going on. But I think I'm a lot more excited about the plush bears from Ticketmaster with Counterfeit Blade and sketchy information. That'll be fun. And there is a new neutral card that's mediocre with this as well. We'll discuss it when we get to that. But yeah, Rogue's got some pretty interesting stuff going on. Really excited for the SI7 package, and relatively interested in the Death Rattle package, and very curious to see what we can do with Maestra. It's gonna be fun. The opponent should be more wary about classic basic skins, since it looks like it takes them for the disguise. Oh, yeah, interesting. I suppose they would do it that way. So especially in Legend, and like Diamond, well, actually in general, I think a lot of people do switch it up when they have the chance. So if you come across somebody with the old school skin, that might be a little bit of a giveaway that they might be playing Masquerade Rogue. Masquerade... Masquerade Rogue. That's a good insight. Good to know, good to know. Okay. Let us move on to Priest. Alright. So, on to Priest. Priest got a pretty interesting new archetype. We've got Dark Bishop Benedictus. Legendary 5-mana 5/6, start of game. If the spells in your deck are all shadow, enter shadow form. Shadow form, I should have put that on here, is a hero power that allows you to deal 2 damage instead of heal 2 health. So it essentially turns your healing into damage. You can target minions, you can target face, you can target whatever you want. And it does 2 damage. So, that's pretty cool. And you don't have to draw or play Dark Bishop Benedictus. It's just deck construction, so it's like Baku and Gen cards. So, just like that. And there are quite a few Shadow Priest synergy cards. The game plan of let's burn our opponent to death with damage from our hero power. And the first one of those is Twilight Deceptor. He's a 2-mana 2/3 with a battle cry. If any hero took damage this turn, draw a shadow spell. So, nice little tutor. You're not playing him on turn 2 necessarily. You're probably playing him on, well, if you're using a hero power to pull this off, turn 4, but sometimes you have a cheaper way, or if you've just got a minion sticking to the board, then you've got a way to cheat this out a little bit faster. But nice specific draw. Now you could use this in a non-Dark Bishop Benedictus deck to draw your palm reading into hand, or draw a specific shadow spell from your deck, but a lot of times this is going to go into a shadow deck. And then another card that pairs together well with this is Fiend, which is a 3-mana 3/4, nice stat line. After you cast a shadow spell, deal 2 damage to each hero. So good fast way to burn the opponent off, but you are taking some damage. And since you can't heal yourself with your holy spells, unless you discovered them off of palm reading, you're playing at a little bit of a risk. So a very aggressive card, but you're probably going to be able to use it more effectively than your opponent, at least hopefully. And actually, if you use it with, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to this Void Shard, you're actually dealing 6 damage to the opponent or enemy hero and healing for 2 if you use Fiend and Void Shard as your way to deal damage. And so pretty interesting synergy going on there. But also Twilight Deceptor has a way to, specifically draw Void Shard from your deck. And then we've also got a weapon, Shadowcloth Needle, is a 2-mana 0/3, that after you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to all enemies, including the enemy face. So pretty nice. You'll lose 1 durability after every single time it does that. But kind of a nice little AoE. Too bad we can't give this lifesteal, or well, maybe good that we can't give this lifesteal from anybody playing against it. But yeah, if you could transform this into an AoE effect, then that would be kind of into a lifesteal effect, that would be kind of crazy. But yes, all of this coming together to be pretty strong. And actually, that's not all of the Shadow Synergy cards that Priest got. So Priest got quite the nice bit of Shadow Spell Synergies. There's 2 more cards that are probably going to synergize with this archetype quite well. And one of those is Call of the Grave, which is a 1-mana shadow spell. Discover a Death Rattle minion. If you have enough mana to play it, trigger its Death Rattle. So Wandmaker into Draconic Studies wasn't enough value generation. Now Priests get Call of the Grave as well. Now you're a little bit more tempted to play this later in the game, because the later you play it, the more likely you get the second part of this effect. You actually get to play enough, trigger its Death Rattle immediately. But honestly, 1-mana Discover a Death Rattle minion isn't terrible. The Death Rattle pool, of course, with each expansion continues to grow, but since the Death Rattle pool has been trimmed with the rotation of the core set, you're still much more likely to get a decent Death Rattle than you would have before the core set, Griffin core set came. So pretty cool, pretty high value card that's going to be decently strong, I think. And then another 1-mana card is Void Touched Attendant. She's a 1-mana 1/3, good stat line. Both heroes take 1 extra damage from all sources. So you can use this as a nice way to burn your opponent near the end. If you've got some pings with your hero power and you've got a Void Shard, you're going to do a little bit extra damage. And these do stack, so you could play 2 Void Touched Attendants just for 2 mana and increase your damage to the opponent, namely their face, by both heroes. Yeah, it has to be their face. Okay. Both heroes take 1 extra damage, so you can deal 2 extra damage to the opponent's face with every single effect you're hitting them with. Now, if you don't finish them off, there of course is the downside that they can do the same if they don't have to trade into your Void Touched Attendant. Meaning, yeah, you're probably going to want to use this as a finisher, or against a deck that isn't likely to capitalize on the damage to your face. Okay, let's actually look at the quest line real quick next. So, looking at the entire quest line for Priest. Priest got Curvestone as a reward. So you've got Seek Guidance. Questline to first stage is to play a 2, 3, and 4 cost card. And then you discover a card from your deck. Maybe it's a 5 or a 6 cost card, so that you can knock out stage 2, which is to play a 5 and 6 cost card. And then the reward for that is to discover another card from your deck, which you can use to knock out stage 3, which is to play a 7 and an 8 cost card. And the reward for that is Xyrella the Sanctioned, which is a 5 mana 7/7, and she has Taunt, so a nice minion to just play on the board, stall out. 5 mana 7/7 Taunt is strong enough, but Battle Cry, shuffle the Purified Shard into your deck. And the Purified Shard is a 10 mana spell, single spell, to destroy the enemy hero. Win the game. You're done. It's over. Oh yes, another minion. Ooh, that's a good one. Another minion that can draw your Purified Shard is Primordial Protector. Yes, this is true. So the reason I put Thrive in the Shadows and Lorekeeper Polkelt here are because if you play Xyrella on turn 9, so you've managed the perfect curve to complete the quest line, which is not going to happen too often. I think you'd have to have the luck of the gods for your draws. But if you manage to curve perfectly with the Xyrella quest line, then on turn 9, after you've played your 8 cost card, on turn 9 you play Xyrella, and then you can use Thrive in the Shadows to pull the Purified Shard from your deck. Or if you completed it on turn 10, you could play Xyrella into Lorekeeper Polkelt on the same turn, and the shard will be on the top of your deck, assuming you don't have other 10 cost cards in your deck, which you control with your deck building. So those are 2 powerful ways. But yes, Primordial Protector is a strong way and will protect you against Warlock cards that burn your cards a little bit. Improve the chances of them not burning your Purified Shard. This is crazy! I don't know how strong it's gonna be, but it is a nice way to ensure that Paladin won't drag out the game for 45 minutes and then win with a randomly generated card that, they generated the 20th Soul Mirror in a single game, and you're like, oh my gosh, why? It's better to have it over quickly in that case. And who knows, maybe it'll cause some Priest opponents to play poorly so that you have a better chance of taking them down before they can end the game. But the game will be over faster when this is going on, one way or another. But honestly, I like it. I'm a little bit curious as to whether or not it'll be too strong, because Priest has so many control tools that I don't know if you're going to be able to defeat a Priest opponent that's doing this, but we'll have to see. And whatever the case, it's a cool idea, cool build, and cool progress. Priest Mirror won't take as long. Yes, this is true. Oh gosh. Okay, jumping back to the last couple cards for Priest. Actually, this next card annoys me so much. Why did they print this? Shard of the Naru is a 1 mana holy spell to silence all enemy minions. So if you're doing Death Rattle shenanigans, if you're doing Divine Shield shenanigans, if you're doing shenanigans, Priest will wreck your dreams. And Wandmaker has, a decent chance of getting them more of this. And if the Priest is playing against an opponent that is not doing shenanigans or will not be completely decimated or wrecked, this card has tradable, so they can just shuffle it in for another broken, busted card. This is probably an expansion that I will play more Priest than I ever have in the past, because Priest is one of the few classes that hasn't reached 500 wins yet. I don't think I'll be playing with this card very much. It'll be the Quest Line Priest and Shadow Priest. Looking forward to Shadow Priest. But Shard of the Naru is going to be annoying, I'm pretty sure. Because it's going to wreck a lot of our silly, stupid stuff that we're doing in other decks. Yeah, that's going to be fun. And then last is Elic Mount. 7 mana spell to give a minion +4/+7 and taunt. And then when it dies, summon an Elic, which is Zyrella's Elic. 6 mana, 4/7 beast with taunt. Pretty good. Especially if you've got a couple palm readings, so you get this down on 5 onto whatever single minion you've managed to summon at that point. Excuse me, sorry about that. Also, good way to keep a Sethic Veilweaver alive. And if your opponent does kill it, because they have to kill Sethic Veilweaver, then you have a nice 4/7 taunt on the backside. This is strong. But it's slow also. So without palm reading discounts and things like that, it might not actually make the cut in control priest decks or stuff like that. But it can be generated, and then it becomes a bit of an issue, because that's a lot of stats to get through. That's 8/14 in stats to break through for a single card. Pretty strong. But yes, so Priest is doing some strong things this expansion. Will it be a problem? I think the Shard of the Naru is actually the one that annoys me the most of anything that Priest has coming. But then again, we'll see how broken the quest line is. And looking forward to playing it myself, but I'm curious if after a week or two we will be dreading Questline Priest, or probably not Shadow Priest. I don't think we'll be dreading Shadow Priest, but I wonder if we'll be dreading Questline Priest. We'll see, we'll see. Okay, and that's Priest. Now onward to Paladin. So starting off with Paladin's hand buff package. The first card we're going to look at is the Alliance Bannerman, who is a 3 mana 2/2 with a battle cry to draw a minion and give minions in your hand +1/+1. So he's guaranteed to buff at least one minion, because he'll be drawing you a minion from your deck. But you're probably playing this guy in a deck with a bunch of minions, maybe alongside Invigorating Sermon. We'll see. But Alliance Bannerman draws a card, draws a minion. He's understated for his cost, but you're gonna get those stats back plus some if you've got any other minions in hand. But it is a little bit delayed, which is always been the issue with hand buffs. Now, a card that you would love to pull off of Alliance Bannerman and becomes a lot better if she does have +1 attack at least, is First Blade of Rin. She's a 4 mana 3/5 with Divine Shield, and Battlecry gain Rush if this has at least 4 attack. So 4 mana 3/5 Divine Shield, not terrible. Actually, not bad. But 4 mana 4/6 and Divine Shield Rush, that's good. Especially if you're using Divine Shield synergies like the next couple cards. First one of those is Prismatic Jewel Kit. 1 mana 0/3, and after a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, give minions in your hand +1/+1 and lose 1 durability. So obviously you're playing this in a deck with quite a few Divine Shields. And another incentive to run quite a few Divine Shield minions is High Lord Fordragon. He's a 6 mana 5/5 Divine Shield. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, give a minion in your hand +5/+5. Since he has Divine Shield himself, that means almost always, unless they manage to do, a single target kill with a spell or something like that, that he didn't actually, not Hysteria, not Blade Storm. It has to be something that straight up kills him without him losing his Divine Shield first. Then they would avoid the +5/+5 buff to your hand. But he's a 6 mana 5/5, buff your hand by +5/+5, maybe even more. And man, if we build a board of dudes that have been buffed by Lothraxion, so say we play Day at the Fair, and summon 5 dudes, and they all have Divine Shield, and then we play High Lord Fordragon, or rather a couple of those dudes stuck to the board the turn before and they still have their Divine Shields. You play High Lord Fordragon out there and then run the recruits into enemy minions, knocking off the Divine Shields and getting super buffs. Pretty interesting synergy going on there. Not sure how well it'll work out, but something we're definitely going to experiment with. But High Lord Fordragon has some super high potential. I guess we should be glad that Charge no longer exists in Standard, because this together with Leroy Jenkins would be insane. Especially with all the Divine Shield synergies going on. But yeah, High Lord Fordragon, kind of interesting. This whole Divine Shield and hand buff package is interesting. And another card that you'd really like to have buffed is this Catacomb Guard. 3 mana 1/4, lifesteal, battlecry, deal damage equal to this minion's attack to an enemy minion. Oh, if only Blood Knight were in Standard. Oh my gosh, that would be insane. We had fun with Blood Knight right before we rotated out anyways. Yes, it would be nuts if it were still in Standard. Maybe that's why they rotated him. But anyways, Catacomb Guard, that lifesteal damage at a base level, pretty sad. You're only dealing 1 lifesteal damage, but you're running this in a buff deck, so hopefully this is a 3 mana 3/6, or at least it's gotten 1 buff. It's a 2/5, and a 2/5 a little bit tricky to remove straight up, and so probably healing you for a little extra and getting 2 damage on its battlecry to start. But you start buffing this up and it's a massive heal, a massive board presence that they have to deal with if they want to be able to finish your face off, because you're just going to heal up after if they don't remove it. So it becomes a must kill target. And yeah, heaven forbid someone get a High Lord Fordragon buff or 2 on it, and Catacomb Guard becomes insane. So that'll be kind of fun to play. Maybe not so fun to play against. Now there's a lot more going on with Lifesteal and Divine Shields. Starting off with City Tax. City Tax is a tradable 2-mana spell with Lifesteal. Deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Not sure if this sees play. Paladins, there are some neutral cards that give spell damage, but Paladins don't tend to want to run that. So I'm not sure why you would actually play this, but maybe. And it's only minions, so it can't go face. Yeah, I don't know. You might see this, but probably not. Still the tradable. Makes it a little bit more flexible, but no, probably not. Another lifesteal item for Paladins this time. They got quite a few lifesteal synergy cards, or well, lifesteal cards. You've got Lightbringer's Hammer, is a 3-mana 3/2 with lifesteal. Can't attack heroes. So this is a dead on arrival card? I don't know. We'll see. But then again, if you're using this to control the board while you build out your own board of Divine Shield minions, or save a Divine Shield on a minion or two so that you can drop 4 dragon, maybe? But I don't think it compares very well against the other options for Paladin. You might just want a Murloc, or let's see, Ceremonial Maul probably doesn't compete with this, but Underlight Angling Rod is stronger, and then True Silver Champion is probably just better generally. So yeah, I'm not sure if Lightbringer's Hammer sees play. Oh, Celery Crunch, hello. Hope you're doing well today. To give you a little bit of a heads up, obviously this is not our normal scheduled stream, but we are talking through the cards that are coming for United and Stormwind, based around synergies, like taking 5 at a time generally, and talking about synergies that exist within each class. And we've gone Warrior through now Paladin, and we're almost done with Paladin. But yes, so welcome. Hope you're doing well today. So Lightbringer's Hammer, not so exciting. Noble Mount, however, is a 2-mana spell to give a minion +1/+1 and Divine Shield, and when it dies, summon a Warhorse, which is a 1-mana 1/1 Divine Shield. Same effects, all the mounts have the same effect they're giving when they come back. And again, great Divine Shield synergies going on with all the hand buff stuff, if it's strong enough to do it. But yeah. And good, things are going well. Celery. So actually going to be transforming this into a YouTube video, a really long YouTube video for Saturday. But since I was going to ahead and doing all of this recording and stuff, wanted to go ahead and do it live in case you guys had interesting ideas and feedback along the way, or insights that might be a little bit more fun and interesting to include. So that's why we're doing it the way we are today. But anyways, back to it. So I feel like Dude Paladin with the new quest seems really good. Actually, that's what we're going to talk about right now. So Paladin's quest line is Rise to the Occasion, and I'm going to look at that real quick. So Rise to the Occasion, 1-mana quest line, play 3 different 1-cost cards, with the reward to equip a 1/4 Light's Justice. Got that right there. Basic, simple weapon, help you, fight early game, works well. You're running a lot of cheap cards in this deck, I assume, and so you're able to finish it off relatively quickly and easily. However, you have to play 3 different 1-cost cards. Now, there was a confirmation that each stage, so there are 3 stages, each stage you can play the same minion once per stage. So for stage 2, you have to play 3 more different 1-cost cards. But for example, you could play a Pinflinger for the first stage, bounce it back to your hand with Small Time Recruits? No. The 1-mana card. First Day of School. So you could play Pinflinger, play First Day of School, play one of the minions. Then you could play Pinflinger, play your second First Day of School, and play one of your 1-cost minions. And then for the third stage, again, you play 3 different 1-cost cards. You play Pinflinger plus 2 other 1-cost minions that you got off of First Day of School, and you're done with the quest. Now, that's assuming you got both, or well, you got a Pinflinger and both First Days of School in your opening hand. But that's actually pretty easy to pull off if you got that draw. But I assume you're playing a fair number of other 1-cost cards in the deck as well, which does make it overall maybe slightly weaker or slightly slower if you're running a lot of Dude Paladin synergy cards. But it's probably worth it, even if it is a little bit slower, because if you are running Dude Paladin synergies, holy cow, stage 2 you get the upgraded hero power, which is up there. It's the Baku hero power that gives you gives you 2 1/1 recruits every time. And then what's insane is that your hero power will become summon 2 3/3 recruits every single time after you play Lightborn Carriel, 5 mana 7/7 with a battle cry for the rest of the game. Your silver hand recruits have +2/+2, which also you could play the other Dude Paladin buff card, 2 mana, what's it called? Pursuit of Justice, to give +1 attack to silver hand recruits you summon this game. Meaning you could be summoning 5 3s to your hero power could become 2 mana, summon 2 5/3 minions every single turn. So kind of insane. Which synergizes well with Tour Guide, which you're probably, or is a 1 mana, card you could play to complete the quest, but also a way to cheat out some extra hero powers every now and then. You could play First Day of School on turn 1. Well, if you have the coin, because you have to play Rise of the Occasion itself. But you could play First Day of School on turn 1, play both minions on turn 2, then coin and play a Pinflinger. So you have to, on turn 1, you have to play Rise of the Occasion, or Rise to the Occasion. So your turn 2 could be Pinflinger, First Day of School, and then if you want Pinflinger coin, or no, that's 2 mana. So turn 3 could be Pinflinger coin, 2 1-drops, and maybe you've picked up another spell by then. But you do have to play Rise of the Occasion. You have to play Rise of the Occasion on turn 1. Well, you can play it whenever, but to start getting progress towards it. So playing First Day of School on 1 probably wouldn't be worth it. Yeah, you'd want to play the quest before you play First Day of School. But yeah, no worries. Good idea though. I like where your head's at, but yeah, we do have to play that. So you can't quite curve it out that perfectly, but you can still play Lightborn Carriel on 5 if you get the right draw. So that's gonna be interesting. Okay, let's jump back to these. Now, one more card that was introduced with this set that will support the quest line for Paladins is Blessed Goods, which is to discover a secret, which is guaranteed to be 1 cost in Paladin, weapon, or Divine Shield minion. And Divine Shield has synergies with the buff, or hand buff stuff going on. So Blessed Goods is probably going to see a fair bit of play, one way or another. And seems good, just generally. But maybe sometimes you want the weapon off of it. Lightbringer's Hammer is the sad weapon from it, because almost every other one is better, except for maybe Sword of the Fallen if you don't have secrets left in your deck. But Still, this is going to be strong. I like Rise to the Occasion. I like the hand buff stuff. I think there might be just enough of a critical mass of hand buff stuff to make it work. And maybe we try a hand buff, so Lothraxian and Balloon Merchant, making your recruits have divine shields would allow us to potentially be greedy with Four Dragon. What's his name? Something Four Dragon. High Lord Four Dragon. It's probably a little too greedy to mix them together, but we're gonna try it, definitely. We're gonna experiment with it. So yeah, some fun, interesting things we can do with Paladin. Yeah, we'll see. Next up is Mage, and Antonidas is back. And he's an 8 mana 6/6 battlecry. If you've cast a fire spell on each of your last 3 turns, which I'm not sure if that includes this turn that you play Antonidas, but probably, cast 3 fireballs at random enemies. Dang! Like, high impact play. There is a decent bit of setup, but there are a lot of fire spells that are coming with this set to really help out. And honestly, if the enemy board is empty, that's 18 face damage and a 6/6 on board for just 8 mana. Kind of insane. But, sometimes he hits minions, helps you clean up the board a little bit. He's probably your only thing you're doing unless you have more than 8 mana. And you get to First Flame / Ignite in there, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, he's powerful. And so you don't have to, even if the opponent kills him off right away, if they're still alive after you play him, then you already got your huge value out of him, because a lot of times you only got a couple fireballs out of Antonidas anyways, old school Antonidas. So this is pay it forward. You set him up a little bit more than old school Antonidas, but then you get immediate payoff, high power. So I think, old school Antonidas didn't see a ton of play except for in OTK decks, but I think Grand Magus Antonidas is quite a bit better. A lot more immediate high impact. And who knows, maybe if the opponent doesn't kill him off, could you possibly use Potion of Illusion on him for another a little 1/1 Antonidas that does 3 fireballs? You would have to play something like Hot Streak, which again we're going to look at in a second, together with Antonidas to keep the damage or the fire spells going. But that's something I want to try out. We'll see. Okay, so speaking of fire spells, so you have to play 3 in a row, or three turns in a row of fire spells in order for Antonidas to be active. And there is one other big thing that wants fire spells as well, but those fire spells, most of them are here. So first one we're going to look at is First Flame. It's a 1 mana fire spell to deal 2 damage to a minion and add a second flame to your hand. Second flame is the same exact thing, 2 damage to a minion. That's 2 fire spells, 2 turns of fire spells in a row right there for bundled into 1 card, which is really nice and really cheap. So you can eke that into a turn pretty easily, especially if you've played Incanter's Flow. But anyways, and then another fire spell that is very interesting is Ignite. 2 mana spell to deal 2 damage. Shuffle and Ignite into your deck. Now, 2 damage, not to a minion, so you can go face with this if you want. But shuffle and Ignite into your deck that deals 1 more damage. So, mages with this, as long as there's not a counter spell or something, means no fatigue. You are not going to fatigue if you have Ignite. That's nice. But also, infinite scaling. If you have an insane card draw deck that you cycle through your deck like mad, and you're not playing Cthulhu, you have ignites for ever increasing damage, like 2 damage, 3 damage, 4 damage, 5 damage, blah, 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 blah. Opponent's dead. If you manage to actually draw and cast them all without dying. But yes! Ignite is very interesting. And the scalability is insane. So yeah, liking that. And then Fire Sale is another fire spell that it's a 4 mana spell to deal 3 damage to all minions. But if you've managed to develop your own board and don't want to clear your own minions, you can just trade it back into your deck. So get a different card from your deck for 1 mana. That's it. But it's nice that you have that flexibility, and it's there when you need it. It's slightly overcosted, I guess, compared to some other cards. Well, it's a Hellfire that just doesn't go face, so not bad. I like it. I don't know if Mage needs it, but it's there. And no minion Mage got a little bit stronger, a little bit harder to fight. But yeah. Now, Hot Streak, this next card, you have... Okay, well, let's read it. It's a 0 mana spell. Your next fire spell this turn costs 2 less. So you can't save up the discount from this. So you're going to play more than Hot Streak in a single turn. So it's a card to get a 2 mana discount. I'm not sure when you're using it, except for the situation like I mentioned with Grand Magus, Antonitis, and Potion of Illusion to follow up. But I'm not entirely sure when and how you use this. However, it is a nice way to get a Fireball out for 2 mana, or a free Ignite out, or a discounted Fire Sale. So it's okay. I don't know if you want to take up a whole deck slot for it, but maybe. Especially if there's something dependent on how many spells you played, but I don't know that there is anything for that. Oh, but there is something on the next page. Yes, that's right, that I need to mention. I'm actually going to jump forward to that. Sanctum Chandler is a 5 mana 4/5. After you cast a fire spell, draw a spell, which means you could actually, even if you have no other fire spells in hand, if you play Hot Streak... Yes, if you play Hot Streak into... Or well, you have Sanctum Chandler, you play Hot Streak, you could potentially draw into a fire spell that is discounted by 2 that turn. So that's 1 more fire spell synergy. And then the last fire spell synergy card that is just built around fire synergies is Prester's Pyromancer. He's a 2 mana 2/3 with a battlecry. Your next fire spell has spell damage +2, which you don't have to play on the same turn as Prester's Pyromancer. You can play your fire spell 2 or 3 turns down the road, and it's going to have +2 spell damage. So unlike Hot Streak, where you have to play it right away, this is something that allows you to store it up. Obviously, you don't want to play this together with Hot Streak because the spell damage doesn't mean anything. But just about every other fire spell does. So you've got that going on. And now, why did we need all of these new fire spells? Because we had a fair number of arcane spells and quite a few frost spells from last expansion, but we didn't have a critical mass of fire spells. Now we do, and the payoff for that is Sorcerer's Gambit, the quest line for mages, which is to cast a fire, frost, and arcane spell to complete the stage. And the reward is that you draw a card from your deck, which could get you a Fire, Frost, or Arcane spell from your deck to help you knock out stage 2, which is to cast one of each of those. And then you discover one. I'm betting it's going to be you have an option to discover a Fire spell, a Frost spell, and an Arcane spell, would be my guess. I hope that's the way it works, because then you look at what you've got left in your hand to help you knock out stage 3, which is again to cast one of each. And you can use that discover to fill in the gap, what you're missing, which will make it a little bit more reliable. Still one of the more finicky ones to finish, maybe, if you don't draw quite well. But your arcane spells are typically drawing you more cards, and your frost spells are buying you time, and then the fire spells are either clearing minions or starting to whittle the opponent down. But the payoff is Arcanist Dawngrasp, 5 mana 7/7. With a battle cry for the rest of the game, you have spell damage +3. Even after Arcanist Dawngrasp dies, you still get +3 spell damage, which means you probably want many of these fire spells that we just talked about to burn the opponent. Oh, well, wait. You want ever-growing ignites that no longer do 2 at a base level, but do 5 at a base level, and then growing. So ignite will scale after the quest line is complete. It's gonna get big, and your opponent is going to melt. Now, speaking of big, we've got Clumsy Courier. She's a 7 mana 4/5 battle cry. Cast the highest cost spell from your hand. Now, unfortunately, mages in standard don't have terribly expensive spells at the moment. You've got Grand Finale and you've got Deep Freeze, which neither of those will backfire. And then you've got Mask of Cthulhu and Flame Strike as your biggest spells available in standard. All of those will essentially target the opponent, but none of them are something I'm terribly excited to run for the sake of running with Clumsy Courier. I mean, she's a 7 mana 4/5 that casts a spell, which is nice, and the big spells that you want her to cast aren't terrible, but then again, yeah, I'm not sure. She is kind of fun with Deep Freeze, though, so maybe. I'm also kind of curious if her casting the highest cost spell from your hand will count for Sorcerer's Gambit to finish off the quest line, because she will be casting it, and it does say cast a Fire, Frost, and Arcane spell, so maybe? In which case, it becomes a little bit more intriguing, and it is the highest cost spell targeted, so you don't have to worry about it pulling one of your cheaper spells and casting it on a target you didn't want to cast it on. So you have a little bit more control over it, but you might be able to cheat out a spell either a turn early or cast a Mask of Cthulhu with a 4/5 body. So maybe she makes the cut in some decks, especially if she does. Her casting the spell counts for Sorcerer's Gambit or the quest line. Then maybe she does see play. But this next card, the final card, Celestial Inkset, I'm not sure about. So Celestial Inkset is a 2 mana 0/2 weapon. After you spend 5 mana on spells, reduce the cost of a spell in your hand by 5. Lose 1 durability. Now this one is one you do want to be running almost entirely expensive spells, because you don't want this discount to hit one of your cheap spells, this hitting a hot streak, 0 mana spell, not so good. You would probably just play out the hot streak beforehand anyways, but yeah, it could be awkward if you don't have just the right deck build, and you're having to have a spell in hand to reduce the cost of another spell in hand. And if you're running a bunch of high cost spells that you're trying to get these discounts on, you've got a clogged hand and some awkwardness going on. So I'm not sure if this is gonna be worth running. We'll have to see. But my hopes are not terribly high for it. I think Clumsy Courier has a better chance of seeing play, and she's a little bit awkward. But she might actually see play. Whereas all of the Fire Spell package and Grand Magus Antonitis is going to be fun. And it'll be interesting to see if the Sorcerer's Gambit is reliable enough to pull off. But with the Ignite spell, I think the scaling plus 3 damage that's going to be continually stacking on top of this Ignite that is continuing to grow is going to be worth it, and guarantee the game is going to end with you victorious if you don't if your opponent doesn't manage to kill you somehow. If you've managed to complete the quest, you're probably going to finish them off with Ignite, or whatever you manage to have saved up. So yeah, Mage has some interesting directions to go as well. So, Hunters. Hunters got Defend the Dwarven District for their quest line, which is to deal 2 damage with spells. Or no, deal damage with 2 spells. I was actually misinterpreting it earlier. I thought you had to deal 2 damage with spells, but no, you have to actually cast 2 different spells, or well, 2 spells that deal damage. So Wound Prey is great because it's a cheap activator, cheap spell to trigger each of these, but Arcane Shot is cheap and does 2 damage. That's fine as well. I am curious if Explosive Shot counts, because it is a spell, and when your opponent triggers it, it does damage. So I'm guessing it will? Probably? But whatever the case. So you need to deal damage with 2 spells, and your reward is that your hero power can target minions. Okay, that's fine. Second stage, deal damage with 2 spells again. Not terribly difficult. Reward, set the cost of your hero power to 0, which is quite nice. And, so you can target minions, you can use it to finish off a taunt that's in your way, help your hyenas and whatnot go face or finish off whatever's lingering on the board. And then, knock them down. Deal damage with 2 spells. And the reward is Tavish, Master Marksman, which is a 5 mana 7/7. Battle cry for the rest of the game. Spells you cast refresh your hero power, which means Raza Priest is now Raza Hunter, or Shadow Reaper Anduin, Shadow Reaper Tavish. So you can burn your opponent fast with Tavish. Face Hunter has a new archetype to play around with. Honestly, I've not been a great fan of Face Hunter. It's been kind of boring, but I am eager to try this out. I'm not sure how quickly it'll be like, oh my gosh, why are we facing another questline hunter? Yeah. But I want to see it. I want to try it. And this seems busted good. Busted strong. Kind of scary, actually. And also, we just played some really fun games with Lock and Load Hunter, And this is going to go great with lock and load to just reload and be able to hopefully generate more spells to pair with the 0 cost hit wherever you want hero power. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. Oh, it's going to be strong. I'm kind of scared. But so questline hunter, strong. Really strong, good support card that it got is Aimed Shot. Aimed Shot is a 3-mana spell to deal 3 damage, and your next hero power deals 2 more damage. Synergy with the hero powers, so you could use this mid-stage after you've completed the first stage of the questline, and you can deal 4 damage to an enemy minion, or 4 damage to their face, whatever you want to do. Aimed Shot is good. Also, it's deal 3 damage. It doesn't say to a minion, and so you can send all this damage face if you want, and just melt the opponent. It's gonna be strong. But there's a very different direction hunters could take as well, and that's Swarm. Swarm Hunter. So I'm gonna start Swarm Hunter with the Rat King. He's a 5-mana 5/5 beast with Rush, and Death Rattle go dormant, and revive after 5 friendly minions die. Now, one thing that's really nice about the Rat King is that because he has Rush, when he wakes up, he'll have Rush again. So, interesting thing you could do, I think, is you rush him into something, and he dies off, and then if you have something like, say, Devouring Swarm, which we'll talk about here in a second, he wakes right back up, and I think he can rush again, because technically he died and came back. So I think you could actually deal 10 damage onto the board with him in a single turn. Not sure about that for sure, but we'll have to see. But yeah, strong. And to help ensure that you can actually kill off enough minions, or friendly minions, for the Rat King to come back, you've got a number of support cards, including Devouring Swarm. Devouring Swarm is a 0-mana spell to choose an enemy minion, and your minions attack it. And then you return any that die to your hand. Pretty good. Now, if all of those minions are beast that are swarming into the opponent's minion from Devouring Swarm, then you can actually trigger this Leatherworking Kit, which is a 2-mana 0/3 weapon for hunters that after 3 friendly beasts die, draw a beast and give it +1/+1, lose 1 durability. So basically you have all of these token beasts on the board that you're rushing into stuff, and you have targeted beast draw that you're able to pull from your deck. Now, this is all interesting, but where in the world do we get all of these token beasts from? We get these token beasts from, gonna go ahead and skip over to the top right, Rats of Extraordinary Size. So it's a 6-mana spell to summon 7 1/1 rats. Any that can't fit on the battlefield go to your hand with +4/+4. So this little 1/1 rodent that we're seeing here becomes a 1-mana 5/5 in your hand if you didn't have space for it, or 2 or 3 of them. Which is not terribly exciting to just play a vanilla, well, actually it kind of is exciting to play a vanilla 1-mana 5/5, but it doesn't have Rush or anything like that. However, you could give it Rush, jumping down to the bottom right, with Ramming Mount, so a 4-mana 7/7 rat with a mount inside of it. A rat riding a mount. So Ramming Mount is a 3-mana spell to give a minion +2/+2 and immune while attacking. When it dies, summon a ram. So your 1-mana 5/5 rat that you got in hand from Rats of Extraordinary Size, you can play the following turn, drop a Ramming Mount on it, it becomes a 7/7 rat that you rush into something. Oh wait, no. Attacking. Oh no, it doesn't have rush. Give a minion +2/+2 and immune. Okay, so no. It doesn't necessarily rush. You need like brooms and stuff. Or Devouring Swarm. But okay, so not quite as exciting as I was thinking. But immune while attacking. And if they do manage to kill off your 7/7 without silencing it, then it's going to summon you a 2-mana 2/2 that is also immune while attacking. Which is a beast. Synergizes. You can't kill off your own Tavish's Ram to synergize with the Beast King. I still don't have the Rat King, the name's fully down yet. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on here. Now, another way you can get rats is with the Rodent's Nest, which is kind of like an egg. It's a 4-mana 2/2, so it's not completely useless by itself. But when you kill it off, it summons you 5 1/1 rats, which is the exact number you need to kill for Rat King to come back. So yeah, quite nice. But there are only so many animated brooms you can run in a single deck. So I'm not sure quite what you do with all of these tokens. However, you can swarm the board time after time after time. And your opponent is going to need some clears. Especially if you've dropped, now let's go to the top right or top left. You play Stormwind Piper. She's a 3-mana 1/6 demon. And after this minion attacks, give your beasts +1/+1. So if you've got a swarm of beasts on the board that your opponent hasn't cleared, your 5th swarm of rats that you've summoned onto the board with all the craziness you've got, then your rats are going to continue growing in size. There's a lot of synergy going on, but without rush, without animated broomsticks, without more animated broomsticks, I'm not sure if it quite all comes together, but maybe. We'll see. And then the last hunter card is Imported Tarantula. Is a 5-mana 4/5 beast, tradable. Not sure why you need the tradable here, but with a death rattle, summon 2 1/1 spiders with poisonous and rush. Oh wait, no. I know why you might use the tradable. Because you run this in a Guardian Animals Hunter. And if you drew this before you play your Guardian Animals, you throw it back into the deck. So that you can summon it off of your Guardian Animals and rush it in. And then kill it off and rush the Poisonous Rush beasts off. And kill 2 more things from your opponent's deck. That's not bad, actually. There's some interesting stuff going on there. I like it. Actually, that probably has a better chance of seeing play than the whole rat package. But I am kind of curious to see if we can make a token hunter work. It's a bit questionable, but we'll see. Because yes, you do only have 2 animated broomsticks to play. But we'll see. And those are the hunter cards. Next up, we have the Druid questline, which starts with Lost in the Park. And that's just to gain 4 attack with your hero, and the reward is 5 armor. So of course you can use your hero power to gain 1 per turn, many times, but that's super slow. Still, it is a way to fill in the gaps. There are quite a few cards, or a number of cards, that will increase your hero power's attack, including one that we're going to talk about here in a second. But so you gain 4 attack with your hero, gain 5 armor, and then you gain 5 attack with your hero, and then gain 5 more armor, and draw a card. And then the final stage is to gain 6 attack with your hero, and you get Guff the Tough, who gives your hero 8 more attack himself, and gets you 8 armor. As well as being a 5 mana 8/8 taunt himself. Taunt beast. I don't know that the beast matters, but that's big. Ooh, the beast matters from Menagerie Warden. Do you care? Maybe we might do something with that. But yeah, so Guff the Tough, he's overstated, but he's tough. So compared to the other mercenaries, questline rewards, he's got +1/+1 and taunt. So nice. And I love the defend the squirrels. I don't know who would possibly attack squirrels, but he is defending the squirrels, and he became a feral frenzy. So love the puns. But so that's the quest line. Now you do have in standard Pounce and Feral Rage and Moon Touched Amulet. So Pounce is 0 mana +2 attack. Feral Rage is 3 mana +4 attack if you choose it. And then Moon Touched Amulet is +4 attack this turn. So those are all cards that allow you to ramp up your hero attack. And I don't believe you have to do it all in one turn, so you could just gradually build it up with your hero power if you want. But we also have Park Panther. So Park Panther is a 4 mana 4/4 beast with rush. Whenever this attacks, give your hero +3 attack this turn. So pretty nice. When it was first introduced and we hadn't seen the quest line, it was like, okay, not sure why you would want to play this necessarily. It's not bad, but it's not good. But now that we've seen the quest line, it's like, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense, and it's actually pretty good. I like it. So Park Panther is a great support card for this, and with all of that, I think there's plenty to get the Druid quest online. And because you're gaining 5 armor, and 8 armor, plus dropping a huge taunt. So that's 18 armor, plus any armor you gain with whatever cards you're using to activate the quest. You're gonna be hard to kill. So actually, now I don't know that Guff the Tough is enough to finish off the opponent, but he is a nice 8/8, and you have the 8 attack and whatever minions you're developing with the rest of your deck, and you've managed maybe to hit the opponent in the face once or twice with the attack that your hero has been gaining this entire time. So yeah, you might be able to finish off the opponent with Guff the Tough. Now, another way to present some counter pressure to the opponent as you're gaining all of this attack is with Wicker Claw. So Wicker Claw is a 2 mana 1/4 beast, and after your hero gains attack, this minion gains +2 attack. So play this with Pounce, and immediately it goes to a 2 mana 3/4. Play this on the board on turn 2. Maybe the opponent can't clear it. It is sticky at 4 health. The following turn, you play Pounce and Hero Power. This goes up to a 5/4 with just that. And you've only spent 2 mana. You've got 1 more mana to play something. I don't know. Unfortunately, there's not terribly anything exciting. But still, just hero powering turns this into a 3/4. Even if you don't have anything else to do with it. So turn 1 Lost in the Park, turn 2 Wicker Claw into turn 3 hero power, and if you've got a Pounce in hand, or turn 3 Feral Rage or Moon Amulet, what's it called? Moon Touched Amulet. So that's a nice curve too, Feral Rage or Moon Touched Amulet, to get you progress towards the quest and buff up Wicker Claw to be a decent threat. So, nice little bit of synergy going on there. Now, an interesting card, if you didn't get Wicker Claw down on turn 2, you could play Oracle of Elune to get 2 Wicker Claws on board. Not sure if that's going to be one of the better ways to get value from Oracle of Elune. I'm thinking not. But it is a way you could use her. So Oracle of Elune is a 3 mana 2/4, and after you play a minion that costs 2 or less, summon a copy of it. Now, Strongman, once he's been corrupted, is 0 mana. So you could play Oracle of Elune into 2 Strongmen. Because, yes, they will become, 0 mana, which means you get 2 6/6 taunts for the price of 3 mana. And then there are a number of other interesting cards you could pair with her. But perhaps the most interesting combo I've seen was something one of our viewers posted in Discord. So someone on Reddit figured out a way to use Oracle of Elune together with the Elwyn Boar that we'll talk about here in a minute, and animated broomsticks and Terran Gorefiend to basically do a 1-turn Elwyn Boar, kill 7 Elwyn Boars off, and get the Sword of Truth to Sword of 1,000 Truths or whatever it is, and smack the opponent right away. A single turn with I think you have to have 5 different cards to pull that off. But it's gonna be interesting. We'll see how it plays out, actually. But yes, so Oracle of Elune does open some shenanigan possibilities. We'll see what we can build with her. And then one more card to look at before switching to a different archetype is Sheldris Moontree. He's an 8 mana 5/5 with a battle cry. The next 3 spells you draw are cast when drawn. Interesting. So if you've got big non-targeted spells in your deck, mostly big untargeted spells in your deck that you'd love to have, Sheldris is going to be great. And if you play Sheldris and then the following turn you play Primordial Protector, so you play Sheldris and you play Primordial Protector, and that pulls your Survival of the Fittest or your Guardian Animals from the deck. That will become a cast when drawn and summon, well, if you're using Primordial Protector, it'll summon you a 10-drop, and it will 10-drop or an 8-drop. It will automatically cast that, so you don't have to pay for it, and then draw you another card, because it's cast when drawn, and cast when drawn cards draw you another card. So that's kind of a powerful play. Druid's doing some more broken stuff, or doing broken enough stuff in Primordial Druid right now, but Sheldris will be worth experimenting with in that. Might make it even more busted good. We'll see. So, not sure if you want Sheldris, but he's interesting. It will be a little bit sad, though, when you draw a Lightning Bloom at the start of your turn as your natural draw, and he casts it, and you overload for 2 for nothing. But if you're building your deck, well, because you've got at least 8 mana, maybe 9 mana. So depending on how you build your deck, Sheldress could be very interesting, very strong. SFX Wiz, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Thank you for hopping in. Okay. And then the last of the Druid cards are all sort of support for Token Druid. First one is Sow the Soil, 1 mana nature spell. Choose one, give your minions +1 attack, or summon a 2/2 Treant. So just generally good. If you want a little body on board early on, that's fine. If you've got a couple bodies already out there, then the +1 attack becomes quite attractive, quite appealing. And to help you get those little bodies out there, actually what you'd prefer to play on turn 1 is Vibrant Squirrel. Excuse me. So Vibrant Squirrel is a 1 mana 2/1 beast with a death rattle to shuffle 4 acorns into your deck, and when drawn, they summon a 2/1 squirrel. So these are cast when drawn cards. Great way to knock out that achievement. There's an achievement to do cast when drawn cards with Druid. But anyways, and those acorns summon you 1 mana 2/1s. Which normally in most decks would not be terribly exciting, but Druid has lots of ways to buff their board, and including Arbor Up and Power of the Wild and Sow the Soil, which we have here. So quite nice synergy going on there with that whole package. And composting will also get a little extra value if you've got a couple extra minions out there that you manage to summon onto the board. So composting is a 2 mana nature spell to give your minions Death Rattle, draw a card. Now, Token Druid does a pretty good job of cycling through the deck already, but this might be an interesting potential replacement to Fungal Fortunes, maybe? If you manage to build a little bit of a wide board, like 3 or 4 minions, and you can drop a composting instead of a Soul of the Forest because you didn't quite have enough mana for Soul of the Forest. If you can drop a composting on it, it can help you cycle into all those cards for you to reflood and really take over the board. Composting might make the cut in there. I could see it. Then again, I don't play a whole lot of Token Druids, so I'm not terribly familiar with that. But I think there's a good chance it either replaces Fungal Fortunes or it pairs with Token just to ensure that they always have enough cards until they cycle through everything, and if they haven't managed to kill their opponent by then they realize that it's just not going to happen. But yeah, I think composting has a good chance in Token Druid. And then Best in Shell is a 6 mana tradable spell to summon 2/7 turtles with taunt. So these gold shell turtles get summoned by it. Now, if you don't have enough mana for it, you're looking for something a little bit more pressure oriented to take on the opponent rather than a defensive play, then you can just trade it back into your deck for 1 mana. But if you're facing an aggro deck and you haven't managed to build a board yourself, so this might not just be a token card. It could just be a nice defensive tool for a little bit of a slower deck. But, Druid slow, haha, funny. But a deck that's taking a little bit longer to get online. Or it just generates a couple tokens that are quite sticky, and you can tuck a little bit of your weaker tokens behind, unless they have an AoE. But this one could be good, actually. And, I mean, that's a lot of stats for 6 mana. So, decent chance? Decently strong? We'll see. And then the last card is Kodo Mount. 4 mana spell to give a minion +4/+2 and rush. And when it dies, summon a Kodo, which is again a 4/2 with rush. Really great. Kodo Mount is really great on the squirrels off of the Vibrant Squirrels, because these satisfied squirrels that you see off of the Vibrant Squirrel don't have rush, don't have anything special going on. But if one of them gets summoned onto the board at the beginning of your turn, and then you play a Kodo Mount on it, then it becomes a 6/3, which is likely to die off on a sizable minion that it takes out. And so it runs in, takes out a sizable minion, and then you get a 4/2 with rush that can take another nice trade. So pretty good together with the Vibrant Squirrels. Not sure. No, I think Token Druid will be happy to have this. Now I don't know if outside of that particular scenario, Kodo Mount is terribly enticing. Because it is 4 mana. So if you've played something else already, I'm not sure. We'll have to do some theory crafting with it. But Kodo Mount might be okay in some other shells. I mean, for example, with the Gold Shell Turtles. Except that's a 10 mana play. But say one of the Gold Shell Turtles stuck to the board, you don't get the rush off of it, but you transform that 4, maybe it's got 3 health left over after the opponent hit it with something. You transform it into a 6/5 taunt that gets to attack in once more, and then if the opponent kills it off, you have another 4/2 that they have to deal with, or else you get to fight back with it. So yeah, it might be rather annoying to deal with. Not sure how much value you're getting out of the rush aspect in it, or from in that scenario, but it's got a fair bit of flexibility. So yeah, could be interesting. All right. Now on to the final class, and let's dive into it and dive through it because this has turned into a lengthy stream. Okay, so Demon Hunters have 2 major directions that they're going. First off is Fell Spell Synergies. And to kick that off, we've got Jace Darkweaver. He's an 8 mana 7/5 with Battlecry, cast all Fell spells you've played this game. Targets enemies if possible, which is nice. And you've got to support that. Well, okay, so first off, Fell spells that are going to be great with this are Fury, the attack with the that scales ranked spell, and Chaos Strike. So you've got that, and then you've got Metamorphosis. All of those allow you to generate a huge impact of pressure with Jace, on top of what you've been building up all this time, dealing damage to the opponent with those things. So Jace is a little bit of burst damage, maybe on par or potentially just a little bit stronger than Illidari Inquisitor, which has been a finisher for Demon Hunters for a while. You do have to run a fair number of Fell spells to make Jace enticing, but there are a couple new Fell spells that are decent. First up is Fell Barrage. It's a 2 mana Fell spell with deal 2 damage to the lowest health enemy twice. So that could hit 2 different low health enemies, or that could hit 1 minion twice for 4 damage. Pretty nice way to clear something that's stuck behind a sizable taunt, a high priority target that you might not have been able to kill off otherwise. And then you've got Chaos Leech, which is a 3 mana Fell spell with Lifesteal, deal 3 damage to a minion, and Outcast, deal 5 instead. Most people have been comparing this against Eyebeam. Eyebeam at a base level is 3 mana for deal 3 lifesteal damage, but can be Outcast to deal 3 for only 1 mana. Whereas this, when it outcasts, becomes deal 5. Probably Eyebeam is better, but maybe you run both of them. They are both Fell spells, and with Jace, you're targeting enemy minions if at all possible. So maybe. And then You've got Fellgorger to potentially draw the Chaos Leech and turn it into an Eye Beam, because Fellgorger is a 4-mana 4/3 demon with the battle cry to draw a Fel spell and reduce its cost by 2, making Chaos Leech 1 mana or Fel Barrage 0 mana, which is quite nice. So actually, drawing an Eye Beam off of Fellgorger, it'll still be 1 mana because it would be in the outcast position. You'd have to draw something else for it to become cheaper, and it would still be 1 if it's not in the outcast position. So actually, Eye Beam is not terribly exciting with Fellgorger, but Chaos Leech and Fel Barrage are both quite nice with Fellgorger. And then if you're running all of these Fel spells, especially with Jace, you might want to run Metamorphin, which is a 1 mana 1/2 Murloc with Taunt. Battlecry, if you've cast a Fel spell this turn, gain +2/+2. So 1 mana 1/2 Taunt. Okay. But you get the upside on turn 2, turn 3, probably turn 3, that it becomes a 1 mana 3/4 a lot of times, because you're only running it in a Fel Synergy deck, which is nice. It's a nice finisher on turn 3. So maybe. Again, a Fel Synergy deck with Jace, you might just toss in Metamorphin, if especially if there's an aggressive meta and you could use a little bit of an extra road or bump for the opponent to have to get through. I mean, a 1 mana 3/4 with Taunt is great. It's just that you have this condition that makes it a little more awkward. But you play it down later in the game, and most of the time you'll be comboing it out, which means it will have the bigger stats. And for just 1 mana, that won't feel bad. So I think it'll be okay. So that's the Fel Synergy package. And then now let's look at the Demon Hunter questline real quick. We've got Final Showdown. Questline Stage 1, draw 4 cards in 1 turn, and then reduce the cards, or cost of the cards drawn by 1. Nice. A little payoff there, which could potentially help set up the following stages. It's just that drawing 4 cards in 1 turn is not terribly easy, because most of your cards that are used to draw multiple cards in a turn are not cheap. We've got a couple examples here, Acrobatics and Glide. Acrobatics is only good if you manage to, or it's only going to help you knock this out if you manage to draw a couple really cheap minions. So you have to spend 3 mana to play Acrobatics, and you draw 2 cards, and you only get to draw 2 more with it if you play out both of those minions, or play out both of those cards. And most of the cards you're going to be running aren't going to be 0 mana to start with. So you're not playing Acrobatics for the full value early. Which means Glide may actually be your earliest way to knock this out. Now, your natural draw at the start of the turn does count as one of the cards that turn, but you have to draw 3 cards for the first step, and then 4 additional cards for the second and third step. Both of those are draw 5 cards in 1 turn. And so you're probably not going to be completing this quickly or on low mana, unless you have Luck of the Gods with your draws. And yeah, no, I don't know that you can do this. I don't think Demon Slayer Kurtrus is ever coming down on turn 5. Now we do have a new sigil we'll talk about here in a second that might help Acrobatics knock this out slightly faster, but we'll talk about that here in a second. So we've got second stage is draw 5 cards in 1 turn, reduce the cost of the cards drawn by 1, so the same result, but you had to draw 1 extra card. But it does help that you've got those discounted cards that may be draw cards, which help you knock out the following stage for slightly cheaper. Hopefully. And then the final one is draw 5 cards and you get Demon Slayer Kurtrus. And Demon Slayer Kurtrus is a 5-mana 7/7 battlecry for the rest of the game. Cards you draw cost 2 less, which is nice. Except you've already drawn through like half your deck, unless you shuffled most of it back with Glide. But don't know that it's worth it. However, if you do get relatively lucky with your draw, you could play Final Showdown on 1, and then on turn 2, you could play Sigil of Alacrity. And Sigil of Alacrity is a 1-mana shadow spell, and at the start of your next turn, draw a card and reduce its cost by 1. So, Final Showdown on 1, Sigil of Alacrity on 2, and then Acrobatics, so a 3-mana draw 2 cards, on 3, which will complete the draw 4 cards in 1 turn, because you'll have your natural draw, the card from Sigil of Alacrity, and the 2 cards from Acrobatics. And then the 2 cards from Acrobatics will be 1 mana less. However, you probably won't be able to play those on that turn, plus 3 others. So you're going to want to wait on those 2 cards till turn 4. But unless those 2 cards you drew from Acrobatics happen to be more cheap card draw, yeah, no, I think you're stuck there for a little bit. So I don't think Kurtrus is ever coming down on turn 5. But Skull of Gul'dan draws 3 cards, discounts them. You might draw another draw spell or 2 that is cheap enough. And so you can probably finish Kurtrus on turn like 7 or 8. Yeah. And there are some payoff cards for doing all that drawing. You've got Irebound Brute. He says he's a 7-mana 6/7 demon with Taunt, but actually he's a 6-mana 6/7 with Taunt because you always draw a card at the start of your turn. And then he becomes less expensive for every other card drawn this turn in general. So in a card that's got this heavy cycle, you might consider running Irebound Brute because you might be able to drop him for just 1, 2, 3 mana. Sometimes 0 mana, but not very often. So you could potentially get a nice statted Taunt in the way a couple turns early. And another payoff card is this Lion's Frenzy. A 3-mana 0/2 weapon has attack equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn. There's an achievement to attack with a 10 attack Lion's Frenzy. I honestly have no idea how we're going to do that yet, but we're going to do it. So apparently there's a way, and where there's a will, there's a way. We'll figure it out. I just have no idea how yet. But a hyper-cycle deck, double glides and acrobatics and skulls of Gul'dan, and then every other single cheap spell or draw a spell and draw a card we can possibly muster. But yeah, so Lion's Frenzy can become quite big and attack for quite a bit of damage. Apparently 10 attack is not outside the realm of possibility because it's an achievement. It might be a challenging achievement, but it is feasible. It is doable, apparently. However, you do all that, you attack with a 10 attack Lion's Frenzy, but you've got all that cycle. I don't know that you have enough pressure to win the game. So I don't know that Lion's Frenzy is going to be any good. I mean, obviously you don't have to have huge Lion's Frenzies to be decent, but even if this is just you want it to be at least a 3-mana 3/2, preferably bigger, which getting it to a 3/2 is not difficult. You just have to draw 2 extra cards. So that getting this up to a 3/2 is not difficult at all. Getting this up to a 4-2 or 5-2, a little bit more challenging. It does fit in with the Final Showdown archetype, but again, I don't know if that's enough value or if you just prefer another card draw card in its place. Now, another card that technically draws you another card, I mean, it should count for just 1 mana, is Persistent Peddler. So Persistent Peddler is a 4 mana 4/3 tradable. With Death Rattle, summon a Persistent Peddler from your deck. So what's nice about her is that if you play her and then you draw her before you kill off the one you played, you're like, oh, no, I want the one on the board to draw this. So you toss her back with tradable, you draw a different card, and then you kill off your Persistent Peddler and summon the Persistent Peddler that you shuffled back into your deck onto the board. Pretty good card. I mean, you're getting a lot of value from 4 mana and pairs extremely well with Razorfin Beastmaster. So that whole Death Rattle package, this is kind of a nice top-end extra pressure. Your opponent's like, oh my gosh, surely like they wouldn't have played Persistent Peddler onto the board. Like, I just killed off the Razor Boar into the Razorfin Beastmaster, and now they've got this Persistent Peddler. Do I take the chance that they haven't tossed the second half back into their deck yet and go ahead and kill off the Persistent Peddler that got summoned onto the board? Or do I ignore it and let them smack me in the face for 4 and maybe shuffle the Persistent Peddler back in deck? So she's going to present a lot of pressure. She's a pretty good deck, completely outside of this archetype, and she's an okay support for the archetype. Hey, shuffle through your deck till all you've got left are Persistent Peddlers, and you just keep trading them back into the deck to complete the quest, and then you have nothing left in your deck to discount with Gertrude. But, you know, yeah, no, I don't see where the Demon Hunter questline is going. We'll see. Maybe. Anyways, okay. That's it for Demon Hunter. All that remains are 35 neutral cards. And we've kind of got them, the neutral cards, broken down into categories. So the first category is big hand synergy cards. So we've got Spice Bread Baker, a 4 mana 3/2 with Battlecry, restore health to your hero equal to your hand size. Pretty nice, good heal. Gonna be great in that Warlock questline. Next up is Goldshire Knoll. 10 mana 5/4 with Rush, cost 1 less for each other card in your hand. So if you have 10 cards in hand, this is a 1 mana 5/4 with Rush. Again, goes great in a hand lock, but also other big hand decks, maybe Priest, and another deck or two has a chance. Gets decent use out of this. Good work. Package Runner, 3 mana 5/6. Can only attack if you have at least 8 cards in hand. I don't think Handlock or any big hand decks really want to run this. There is one archetype I'm thinking about, or rather one card that will pair with this in a very interesting way. We're going to talk about her in a minute. But Package Runner, awkward outside of that. And I mean, he can come down quickly and present some pressure, and if your opponent is paying attention to how many cards are in your hand, I think Warlock is about the only class that has a chance of playing this reliably. And I think they're going to pair it with the card that I'm going to mention next, if anything. But I don't think he sees play in meta decks. Next up is Stockades Guard. So also great for especially Handlock. You've got those fiends that you summon with huge stats, but they don't have any benefit like Taunt. You can drop a Stockades Guard to give them Taunt, or you could transform this Package Runner into a little bit of a roadblock. So for 4 mana, you summon a 5/6 with Taunt, and a 1/3. So not terrible, And then to help you get a few extra cards in hand, you could actually draw a card from your deck at the end of each turn with Enthusiastic Banker. So she's a 3-mana 2/3, and at the end of your turn, store a card from your deck. Death Rattle, add the stored cards to your hand. She could actually end up drawing 3 or 4 or 5 cards, at which point you're actually scared because you're going to burn some of your cards before they come back into your hand. But most of the time, she's only going to get you 1 card. And you do run the risk of Silence, Devolving Missiles, or Hex, or a couple other things. And then you lose those cards from your deck. Probably not worth running her, honestly. But she's an interesting card to have. And if you're trying to get to fatigue as quickly as possible, it is an interesting option to try. So yes. Now, another way to cycle through the deck in a beautiful way that every class has access to, including Shamans, for more late game, slower, fun stuff. You have Cornelius Rome. He's a 6-mana 5/4 legendary. At the start and end of each player's turn, you, the person who played him, draw a card. So essentially, you play him, and at the end of your turn, which is the start of your opponent's turn too, you draw 2 cards. And then if your opponent, for some reason, actually left him alone, then you draw 2 more cards. And if you don't kill Cornelius off yourself, then you draw 2 more cards. Great, huge draw engine. Amazing. Love him. And honestly, 6-mana 4/5, draw 2 cards is what he's going to be generally. Is not bad. And then if you do shenanigans like Gift of Luminance or some other stuff, I don't know, there's stuff to explore, you can get some crazy value from this guy. So looking forward to see what doors open, especially in classes that had struggle drawing before, with Cornelius Rome's help. And then Peasant is another card draw card. However, he's like the Caravans. He's a 1-mana 2/1. At the start of your turn, draw a card. Caravans barely ever stuck to the board. Peasant has less health. Gift of Luminance? Peasants are dead. I don't know that they ever get included in a deck, and if they do, I don't know that they ever survive long enough to draw a card. And a card, a 1-mana 2/1, draw a card, probably not 2, almost certainly never 2, probably not worth it. So, yeah, I don't think Peasant sees play. Now, if you're still trying to generate more resources in hand, there are a couple other cards from the neutral set. So, 2-mana 1/3 Pandaren Importer. So she has a battle cry to discover a spell that didn't start in your deck. We haven't done much theory crafting yet, but I don't know that there's a way to really abuse her effect. If we were looking for like a specific spell, for example, say in Rogue, could we play every single spell, including Shadow Step, except maybe Garrote, and discover a bunch of Garrotes so that we can deal tons of damage and shuffle a bunch of bleeds into the deck? Maybe. And yes, Biss, you're right. Peasant, they were doomed from the start, indeed. 1 hit, 1 shot, 1 kill. Yeah. Peasants never stood a chance. But so there might be something crazy, weird, wacky we can do with Pandaren Importer. Or actually, if we can play all spells from a class except for 3 to basically guarantee that we'll always discover a spell that didn't start in our deck. Then we can guarantee we get Garrote or something like that. And so maybe we can do something like that. We'll see. I have to see how many spells are available in each class. In Wild, that'd be impossible. In Standard, it may be possible to set up a class to be pretty consistent at getting something. And in Rogue, we could bounce Pandaren so that we can get her Battlecry multiple times. But yeah, we'll see. And then Cheesemonger is a 4-mana 3/6. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, add a random spell with the same cost to your hand. So a nice way to get spells from other classes, probably, 9 out of 10 times. But you're not getting the high value spells necessarily that your opponent played, and you still get them at the same cost. So you're not getting them any cheaper, there's nothing broke and busted, and you might just get some garbage spells in hand that don't synergize with anything you're doing. So Cheesemonger in Wild as a way to get Thief Rogue, Spectral Cutlass value maybe might be interesting, but still weak. In Standard, I don't see it, but there's interesting potential there? Probably not. But yeah, maybe. Oh, Ormek, hi. Hope you're doing well today. Good to see you. Okay, and then last one from the second set of neutral cards is Encumbered Pack Mule. So it's a 2-mana 2-3 beast with taunt, and when you draw this, add a copy of it to your hand. Now I don't know that there. Actually, in Hunter, there's a legendary that buffs beasts in your deck by +1/+1, and then in Druid, there's Survival of the Fittest. So there are ways to get this a little bit bigger before it comes into your hand, but really I think this is more for like hand buff Paladin or hand buff decks, including with Overlord Runethak, to when he rushes in and buffs your stuff. Encumbered Pack Mule is a nice way to get a couple extra taunt stats, also while filling up your hand a little bit more in decks that care about big hand size. So some interesting possibilities with this card, but yeah, we'll see what broken things we can do with it. Third set of neutral cards is tradables. So we've got a tradable synergy card. Auctioneer Jackson is a 2-mana 2/3. Whenever you trade, discover a card from your deck to draw instead. So normally when you trade something, you get a random card in your hand from your deck. This time with Auctioneer Jackson, you have the ability to choose which card out of 3 you draw. Looking at all the tradable cards and thinking about the different types of decks that are going to want to play tradable cards and the different archetypes potential for each class, I don't see it. Maybe there's a deck specifically cycling for one specific card, Elwyn Boars, that you're desperate to get in hand, Elwyn Boars. Then maybe you throw Jackson in with a bunch of tradable cards. Probably not. But we do have some really good tradable cards in the neutral set as well. So Restaurant Viper, we saw right away, is a 3-mana 3/4 beast with tradable Battlecry, destroy your opponent's weapon. Great tech card if your opponent's not a weapon class, or you figure out they're an archetype that's not running weapons or not worth having the Rot Viper value, you can trade it back into your deck. But it's not a bad 3-mana 3/4. So really good general purpose card that has flexibility. And then Spellbreaker's back with Royal Librarian, a 4-mana 3/4 tradable Battlecry Silence a Minion. So the stats are flipped, not as aggressive as Spellbreaker, but with tradable, much more flexible. So you realize, oh, I'm against an aggro deck. Silence isn't going to help me. I need one of my board clears, my cheap board clears, or stall tools. And so you shuffle Royal Librarian back into the deck. But you face, a Druid that ramped and got a Scrapyard Colossus out there on turn 6, and you play Royal Librarian to silence the second half of it. You still die to the Scrapyard Colossus and, all of the broken stuff Druid does, but you managed to silence something. So Royal Librarian, pretty good. And then you've got Impatient Shopkeep, 3-mana 3/3 tradable rush. Okay, so you need a rush minion, you play him out. You want something higher priority in your deck, you trade it. He's okay. I don't know if he makes the cut, but decent chance. And then Guild Trader. She's a 4-mana 3/4 tradable spell damage +2. So it's not just the next spell you play is spell damage +2. So in some serious burn decks, she could be very interesting. And you don't want her early because you want to have enough mana to play her with some spells, several spells, to guarantee value out of her. So the tradable aspect allows you to throw her back into the deck until you've got more mana and you get another card in the interim. She's not just sitting in your hand taking up space. So she's a good spell damage minion. I just need to see a deck that cares about spell damage enough. Spell damage Mage has been interesting. Shaman actually could totally use her, especially actually after the quest line completion. Okay. Yeah, I think she might fit there. So yeah, she's pretty interesting. So all these tradable cards are rather flexible, except Auctioneer Jackson makes me curious why you would want to run her. Maybe not. We'll see. And then last tradable card from the set is Traveling Merchant. It's a 3-mana 2/3 tradable with Battlecry to gain +1/+1 for each other friendly minion you control. So these are a little bit more tokeny cards, or a couple of these are more tokeny cards. So if you've got a couple other minions out there, at least 2 other minions, this becomes a 3-mana 4/5, which is big stats for the cost. And if you don't have tokens out there, or you need another card, you can trade it back into your deck. I don't know. Token Druid typically doesn't care about their minions as much, and so you get really big stats from that. They don't want it, or they don't care. Maybe this goes into a dude Paladin when you've got some sticky dudes, but it's just another big dude. So I'm not quite sure where it fits, if it makes the cut, but if there is a big wide board deck, maybe a token Druid that isn't using Fungal Fortunes, but rather using the composting draw engine, might run Traveling Merchant. But yeah, he's a little bit more reliant on what other cards you're going to be running. And then next up is Stormwind Guard, 5-mana 4/5 with Taunt. Battlecry, give adjacent minions +1/+1. It's okay. And it's nice in a little bit of a wider board, because you get the +1/+1. I don't know that it sees play, but maybe. And then City Architect is a 6-mana 4/4. Battlecry, summon 2 0/5 castle walls with Taunt. Interesting with Bolner for Shamans, doubling your first Battlecry. Though she's expensive enough, you could build a literal wall, castle wall, with her, with Bolner's effect. But again, do you care? What are you going to do with the wall? Unless you can buff it up. Shaman doesn't have a great way to do that. Druids do, but she's expensive for what she does. So maybe some kind of token deck might figure out a way to use her effectively. But most likely she's pack filler. Next up is Florist, a 2-mana 2/3. And at the end of your turn, reduce the cost of a nature spell in your hand by 1. Not bad on turn 2. You get a guaranteed single cost reduction. Is she worth a deck spot? Maybe not. She might stick to the board an extra turn or two. You might get an extra little bit of discount. Taunt is cheat. You're talking about the castle walls? But they're 0/5s. If you don't do something to buff up their attack, they're just a little bit of a roadblock that your opponent just eats through. You do stall them for a turn, but you paid 6 mana for a 4/4 and a little bit of stall. Not sure if it's worth it. So you want something to pair with it. And then yeah, Florist, maybe we, no, because you've already got Anaconda and Druid to discount your nature spells anyways. So Druid with Germination and like a huge nature spell package doesn't really care. And then Shaman probably doesn't need her. I don't know, there might be something we can put together, some kind of combo that we need discounts on nature spells and we can't figure out another way to make them cheaper. Perhaps we put that together. We'll see. But right now I'm not seeing that she's going to see play. Moarg Forge Fiend, however, is an 8-mana 8/8 taunt with Death Rattle to gain 8 armor. So it's basically gain 16 health. You've got an 8/8 body, and then you've got 8 extra armor. And that 8/8 body, they have to take down or transform. But so in a Menagerie style deck, Moarg could be a nice top end for anything other than Demon Hunter. And then, yeah, so big control decks that care about, you know, making themselves really hard to kill. So control style decks are likely to include this guy. I don't think Control Priest has a good demon at the moment, so maybe there. He is expensive though, but maybe. And then, wow, Quest Priest. 6 mana, 6/6 elemental, heal for 8. Play this as your 8-drop. Your opponent's not going to be able to kill you before you complete the quest. Or quest line and draw the shard. So there's potential for Moarg. He's big, and Big Warrior might also find an interesting use for him. And then next up is some synergy cards with different archetypes. Varian is synergy with a bunch of different stuff. So he's an 8-mana 7/7 Battlecry, draw a Rush minion to gain Rush, and repeat for Taunt and Divine Shield. So I'm pretty sure even if you don't have a Rush minion in deck, he'll still draw you a Taunt and or Divine Shield. So he'll check for each one. And if you have 3 different minions of each of those, then he'll draw each of them. And now if your only Taunt was your last Divine Shield minion, then he'll only gain Taunt. He won't gain Divine Shield from that same minion. So you have to have 3 separate minions with those effects for him to gain all the effects. But 8-mana 7/7, draw 3 cards, potentially Rush, Taunt, and Divine Shield. That's good. That's strong. Bigger, heavier control style decks. Honestly, a lot of decks are probably just going to be happy to draw 2 cards with him. So if you've got a lot of Rush and Taunt or Taunts and Divine Shields, the Divine Shields, like Paladin I know, and then I'm not sure what other class is really going to make use of that. But Rush and Taunt are both things that quite a few classes are likely to be able to run together. So Varian's likely to see play. I don't know that he's the next Lich King, but he's good. Actually, no, he's nowhere close to Lich King, but he's good. Next up, let's look at the SI7 Skulker. We talked about this when we talked about Rogue and the SI7 package there, but everybody has access to this. And 2 mana 2/2 stealth, so they can't kill it off, and then you battle cry. The next card you draw costs 1 less. So it's basically, after the fact, a 1 mana 2/2 with stealth, but delayed. So maybe in decks that are really looking for discounts on stuff, and yet a little bit of tempo, then maybe he makes the cut. But definitely in the SI7 questline Rogue. So, Entrapped Sorceress is a questline support card. So she's a 3 mana 3/4 with Battlecry. If you control a quest, discover a spell. Nice stats and nice effect. Like it. So questline decks, that especially ones that take a little bit longer to complete, probably run her. Ones that are faster to complete might not get value from her as reliably, might not run her, but I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think she makes the cut in a couple of questline decks. And then Lion's Guard, 5 mana 4/6 Battlecry. If you have 15 or less health, gain +2/+4 and taunt. I like this for the questline Warlock, definitely. Nice big roadblock for the opponent. Not sure if it's necessary, but it's nice. Other decks, I'm not as sure if there are going to be as many that are going to see Lion's Guard seeing play, but if aggro becomes super as popular or more popular than it is now, then Lion's Guard has potential to see play. And then Battleground Battlemaster. You've got 2 main ways to play this. Or, well, hold on. 5 mana 5/5, adjacent minions have Wind Fury. So you've got 2 main ways to play this. One, in an aggro deck, allows you to get extra value from your aggro minions that stuck to the board. Boom, 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 boom. So much damage, and potentially you hit face, and then you hit into a minion. That minion dies, another minion moves over, and it gains Wind Fury. Hit face, die, another minion. Hit face, die. So adjacent minions have Wind Fury, huge value for an aggro deck, but also this allows you to give Wind Fury to any minion in any class that managed to stick to the board. That opens some very interesting combo potentials, or rather, very interesting. We managed to stick a board or a minion to the board, and now here's a surprise massive amount of Wind Fury damage that the opponent was not expecting. Not sure what we're going to do with it or how we're going to do it yet, but there's something we're going to do crazy with Battleground Battlemaster. Gonna figure that out by the end of the expansion. There will be something insane. Next up, we have the card everybody's already been experimenting with, Flightmaster Dungar. He's a 3 mana 3/4, Battlecry, choose a flight path, go dormant. And then you've got Westfall, Ironforge, and Plague Lands. So summon a 2/2 Adventurer, random effect, heal for 10, or deal 12 damage randomly split among enemies. Flightmaster Dungar, cool card. Goes in a number of different decks. He's kind of flexible. He probably gets cut quite often as decks get more refined, but he might still stick around in a deck or two. And then next up is the fun card. Elwyn Boar is a 1-mana 1/1 beast with a death rattle that if you've had 7 Elwyn Boars die this game, equip a 15/3 Sword of 1,000 Truths. And this Sword of 1,000 Truths has an effect that after your hero attacks, destroy your opponent's mana crystals. They have 1 mana at the start of their turn. Difficult to put together, but there are already several different decks theory crafted to put this together, including Oracle of Elune in Druid, some Hunter decks, and some Rogue decks. Mainly the Hunter and the Druid decks are going to be semi-reliable, and actually Priest has a number of ways to do this as well. So some pretty fun, pretty interesting decks we can do. And actually with Rogue, we can cycle hard enough that the next card we're going to look at will help us to knock it out in Rogue as well. So, next card is Northshire Farmer. He's a 3-mana 3/3 with Battlecry, choose a friendly beast, shuffle 3 3/3 copies into your deck. So, Northshire Farmer, of course, there's the synergy with Elwyn Boar, allowing you to get more boars. So, for just 4 mana, you can play the boar out, shuffle 3 3 in, and that puts you up to 5 total. So you just need 1 more copy effect, which the second Northshire Farmer could give you, or you do something else that your class has access to. But it's nice that we have this neutral card, which means any and every class could potentially do stuff with Elwyn Boar. But Hunter will be happy to have this just on some high value minions. Death Rattle beasts that have a big upside are going to be great for this. So Northshire Farmer has quite a few very interesting ways he could be used. Of course, shuffling them back into your deck, unless you have targeted draw to pull them back out, means there's a decent bit of a delay there. But this guy sets up quite a few very interesting possibilities. So looking forward to working with the Northshire Farmer. And then Nobleman is a 3-mana 2/3. Battlecry, create a golden copy of a random card in your hand. So he's an alchemist's friend, because gold, he makes everything golden. Unfortunately, you can't control what he's going to give you a copy of unless you basically have Nobleman and 1 other card in hand. That's the only way to guarantee what you're going to get an extra copy of. Which means that aside from a very specific deck able to dump their hand of everything except for 1 high value, high quality thing that they're trying to copy, Nobleman is just random extra value hand stuff, or gambling for maybe hitting a high value thing. I mean, if your hand is full of just good stuff that you like an extra copy of, sure. But you're paying 3 mana for a 2/3, so you're paying an extra mana in general for a roll at 1 more card in hand. Not sure if he sees play outside of some few special case scenarios, but there are going to be some special case scenarios, I'm sure, that he'll be interesting to play with. And then last for this group is Lady Prestor. I believe she's the one everybody's going to get for free with the Tavern, not the Tavern Pass, but actually just from the rewards track. She's a 6-mana 6/7 Battlecry. Transform minions in your deck into random dragons. They keep their original stats and cost. So a couple different ways you could play this. One, well, actually quite a few different ways, but 2 ways that I'm seeing that are good to play this. One is in a, for example, questline Paladin, where you've got a bunch of low cost minions in your deck that you're trying to
get value for the quest line, but then after the quest line is done, you're actually getting your power from your hero power, and you'd like a little bit extra strength from Lady Prestor transforming them, that'd be cool. So you form some of your low health, low attack stuff, and hope for good value from battle cries, dragon battle cries, and dragon effects on cards. That's one direction to take Lady Prestor. A different direction you can take her is actually to play her with cards that normally have a sizable downside. For example, Package Runner. Well, I mentioned earlier that there was a potential use case for him. I think Handlock, a specific style of Handlock, might actually be able to get good use out of him, and run Lady Prestor, so that when she goes off, he becomes a 3-mana 5/6 without the downside from his text. Now, Warlock has a number of cards that have a big downside that are low cost, high stats, that if you pair with Lady Prestor, then they become really impactful. And then, if the dragon effects on top of that are good, then you're doing massive pressure and value bundled into one. She doesn't come down until turn 6, so you might draw your, Lakari Fellhound, or your Humongous Razor Leaf, or the card we just looked at that was the 3-mana 5/6 before, in which case there might be ways you can give it taunt or still get value from it in your deck. But Lady Prestor could be used that way as well, to get rid of negative effects of a card, but it still has to be in your deck to get transformed. So there is a little bit of a challenge there, but there are some interesting directions we can go with Lady Prestor. So looking forward to figuring those out. And then the last set of cards is the leftovers. So we've got Stubborn Suspect, 4-mana 3/3, Death Rattle, summon a random 3-cost minion. It's okay. Might be interesting with the Rogue, pull from your deck, trigger the Death Rattle, and the weapon, gain that Death Rattle, and then get an extra 3-cost minion. Maybe okay, not terrible. But in general, probably doesn't see a whole lot of play. Next up is the Stockade's Prisoner. Very interesting card. It's a 2-mana 5/4, but starts dormant, and after you play 3 cards, this awakens. So in the right kind of deck that's playing a bunch of cheap cards, then Stockade's Prisoner could wake up pretty quickly and be lots of high value for the cost. Including you could potentially get value with coins in Rogue or coins from the Mailbox Dancer. Not sure if you really want to run Mailbox Dancer, because you give your opponent a coin first. Oh wait, no, you give yourself a coin first. So okay. And then if you have a way to transform Mailbox Dancer with like Evolve Shaman or something like that, hey! However, you don't want to run Stockade's Prisoner in the same deck as Mailbox Dancer in that case, but anyways. See, you've got some interesting options to wake up Stockade's Prisoner a little bit faster, and Mailbox Dancer might pair well with that sometimes, especially if you bounce a Mailbox Bouncer back into your hand and just get the Battle Cry effect. But, meh. And then Deep Run Engineers, a 2-mana 1/2, Battle Cry, discover a mech, it costs 1 less. It's filler. And then, objectively, a bad card, Two-Faced Investor is a 3-mana 2/4. At the end of your turn, reduce the cost of a card in your hand by 1, 50% chance to increase the cost. So it's just one card that if you have great RNG, it's generally a 1-mana discount on a card in your hand. 3-mana 2/4, not great stats for the cost. Is it worth the risk? Is the upside worth the risk? Not really. I'm not thinking it is. But, okay, that's it. And I'm going to have to call it. We've gone through the entire set. There will be an edited down version that's still going to be excessively long. That'll go up on YouTube Saturday morning. So if you missed anything and don't want to jump back through this VOD, that will be out on Saturday morning.
And that's it this time. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to tap that like button, smash that subscribe button, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We release videos here every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Also, if you enjoy participating in experiments live, check out our stream at twitch.tv/SSAlchemist. We currently stream on Saturdays and Sundays. And there's a link to our Discord server in the description as well if you'd like to check it out. And remember, you're awesome. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.